of the construct has so much going on.
New quest lines, new legendary items, new unique items, new mechanics, challenges, and more.
Hello. So, thank you very much for the sub, Max. Thank you. I believe you can hear me, right? So, because they have already started, they're playing some videos. Welcome to our channel. We're gonna cover Diablo 4, Campfire. They're gonna talk about Season 4. They're gonna reveal things about Season 4. And they're gonna talk and share details about the PTR, the public realm test. So we want to participate in that test, of course, if we will be accepted. So it's probably one of the most crucious campfire event ever. Jacob, πάνε σπίτι. So of course we were here to, cover it. So thank you for coming. Thank you for the subscribe. Thank you for hello Nikos, hello Max. Who else? Is anyone else? No. Hello Max, hello Nikos. Yes. Thank you for the sub, Max. So let's go and see the campfire. Let's start. They have already started. I did it with the Elgato to be. Let's go. It's probably the most crucious and serious campfire that they have done, even if it goes before the game even released.
Hello, Diablo community.
Hello.
Welcome to another Diablo 4 Campfire chat.
Let's go.
We have a lot to talk about today. I say that all the time, but I will say that this time we really do. Yeah,
let the people
we will
decide
let the community decide. I promise you, this is a lot though. But my name is Adam. My name is Adam Fletch. I'm the community lead for the Diablo franchise. Of
Max
course,
here
I'm
as
joined
well.
by a wonderful panel here, plus one other who is off camera
Max
and will be
here
jumping
and
in. We have
Max
Charles
is
Dunn, who's
hyped
a game
about the
designer on
Campfire.
Diablo 4.
Everyone is
Joe
hyped
Shelley, who
for
is
Diablo
the
4.
game director of Diablo 4. And
So
Mr.
let's
Joe
start.
Pifor,
Let's
who's
go.
the
Let's see
associate
what they
game
have to
director of
offer.
Diablo 4.
Hello.
And we will be joined by Adam Jackson, who's the lead class designer of Diablo 4.
They said that they have a
before
lot of things to show us today.
Get to the class-specific information that we're going to share today. But I know Joe wanted to jump in, talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to be talking about today, and then we will go through a plethora.
That's a new face, I think.
Yeah, that's
changes.
the
coming to
third
Diablo
one.
4,
The one
and of
sitting
course,
next to Adam
details
Fletcher
about
is a new
the
one.
first
It's a new
ever,
guy
Yes.
PTR
with the
public
awesome
test
t-shirt.
for
Yeah,
D4.
what is this?
And for people who don't know, public test
Well,
is
you're gonna
kind of
have
like
a
private
t-shirt.
server where players can actually
Similar
end
to
up
that.
playing early content and test that out and provide feedback to us. So we'll go through all the details on that as well. But Mr. Joe Shelley, want to kick it off?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so I want to frame this update. This is a Season 4 update. We're going to talk a lot about systems here. And I wanted to do a little bit of framing. When we think about Diablo, right? Diablo is an ARPG. Everybody knows what an ARPG is, right?
No, I don't.
It's an action role-playing game. But it's such a broad category, right? You have lots of games that are ARPGs. Like a game like Hollow Knight, for example, is an ARPG, but it's also a Metroidvania, right? Or a game like Hades, which is an ARPG, but it's also a roguelike. Or something like Elden Ring, which is an ARPG, but it's also a Souls-like, right? So when you think about what is Diablo and what is Diablo 4, you could call it a Diablo-like, sure. But another way to describe it would be as a systems ARPG, right? An SARPG. And so what distinguishes this kind of game from those other games that are in this same space that are all ARPGs, right? And it's really about when you're making decisions and what the most important decisions you're making are. The most important decisions in a game like this are the decisions you're making before combat, between combat. Decisions you make in combat are important too, but those are the ones that are the most important. Action combat, RPG elements, and systems are all foundational elements of any ARPG. But in a systems ARPG, the systems in particular, including the end game, itemization, things like crafting, those are what comprise the soul of the game.
Max, what's your expectation
And they're the
about
lifeblood of
this
games
campaign?
like Diablo 4, and they don't just have to be
No, don't
deep,
have
but
a clue,
also lush,
really.
prolific.
I just want
exciting.
to hear specific stuff
So as many
about
of you
the
know,
PTR and the
we've
Season
been
4.
designing this update for a while.
They said they're gonna change a lot
We're
of stuff.
putting
Let's
it
see.
on the PTR because it's important, and it's important to get it right, like Adam was saying. And everything that you'll hear about today is from that S part of the SARPG, the soul of it. Joe, Adam, and Charles are going to take you through the changes, all the changes, in detail.
In
And there are
detail.
a lot.
There are a lot.
So sit back,
Let's go.
grab a drink, get your React faces ready, and let's do it.
Let's
Awesome.
go.
Well, appreciated, Joe. So I know what we
I'm
want to
even
do first.
I'm even
we
more
kind of have
hyped
an
than
agenda of items,
before
but one thing we
even
do
the
wanna
game
talk
was
about
released.
really
I was not so
quickly
hyped yet.
is about
Then.
PTR. We do want to get some housekeeping notes.
Well, I
on what
was.
players
That's true.
can expect from PTR,
That's a lie. I
along
was.
with the dates for PTR, so when they can actually
Oh,
jump in.
here are the dates.
Season 4 PTR is actually going to
1
start
week.
on April 2nd,
April
and it's actually going to
2nd,
run for a week
April
through
9th,
April
okay.
9th. So players will be able to jump into PTR and try everything out that we're about to tell you all about here in this stream. Now, I know a lot of people are probably asking, like, hey, that seems pretty close to the end of Season 3. Is that enough time for you guys to actually react to, you know, the feedback that we're going to be getting from PTR? And I will note here that we do plan on actually extending Season 3 for this. So Season 3 is actually going to have a new end date. We're pushing it back a few weeks to ensure that we get all the feedback from this PTR and we apply it to Season 4 to make sure that all these new system changes that we're doing are right.
This is going to be my birthday. So season 4 is going to be at my birthday. May 14th is my birthday. It's Blizzard's gift to me.
Season 4 also starts on May 14th.
It's my birthday.
So there are some a few
May
different
14th.
Changes coming
So
on.
season 4 is
for the
gonna call
schedule. So
season
you
of the
see that
Paco.
in-game,
Season of the Paco, yeah.
message, which actually
So I'm
notes,
gonna
like,
have my
when the
grandpa
season
again.
is actually ending change today probably with this new date for players so that again we can make sure that we apply all the feedback from PTR, which starts on April 2nd through April 9th. One other note is that again PTR itself is specifically for PC Battle.net.
What's the
only.
first
So this just allows us
announced
to be a
day
little
that
bit
season
more
3
agile on
ends?
our team. Does this mean that
16th of
PTR is
April.
only going to be PC Battle.net only in the future?
What?
No, it doesn't. We are going to try
The
to
first
explore
date
other ways of
announced
being able to
about
bring
the season
PTR,
3 ending.
when we
6th
do have a
April.
PTR,
April of 16th.
to players
So
in the future.
it takes
but for now, this
3
one
weeks,
is PC Battle.net only. So and we'll
extension.
have instructions of how to actually get into the public test realm
Man,
client
with
on,
all
Diablo
those
4 through the PC
announcements,
Battle.net
they
client,
have
next week when we actually have a full
to
blog that will
announce
explain
many, many,
kind of all
many
the
things.
details of how to do that well before the start of PTR in itself. But then there's other notes with PTR as well, because there's probably going to be a lot of questions of like, well, am I starting with like a level 1 character? Am I taking my existing characters? Since PTR itself is a fresh new server, you will actually be starting fresh on PTR, but we do have boosting options available.
So
because
if
we
we will be
need
accepted
players
in the
to actually
PTR, we're
jump
going to
in
start first.
and
Like
test out
playing
some of
season.
these features that we're obviously in these system changes that we're doing specifically for PTR. So I think we actually have a slide, I believe. Speaking of which, I know I actually bring the camera back to me, Lucas. Sorry. I've seen a lot of feedback about, hey, you guys have a lot of slides. Sometimes the slides have a lot of information specifically in them that we need to actually showcase because there might be a lot of details in there. I will say we will have slides today because there's a lot to share, but we also have a live build. So we will actually be going to the live build to showcase some of the changes just because we know that a lot of players want to see more gameplay or see them in game. So we do have that here today. Okay. Now we can go to the next.
They seem very excited, by the way.
So slide. So there will be PTR boosting features available for players that are jumping into PTR. You will be able to boost a character immediately up to 100. When you do that, you will receive 100 million gold and 1,000 obols. You can do this
Of course,
multiple
will be
times.
100
You can trade
level.
amongst gold
That's the reason
across your
to
characters, of course.
test PTR.
And then
Yeah, of
we
course.
will also mark the campaign complete.
GGPT, hello.
Completed
Guys, can I
for
have a
your
shout out to
character,
GGPT? Thank you for
as
stopping
well as
by.
offering you
Not you, Helena.
amounts, all your skill points and more. Skill points
Thank you
again.
for coming.
Paragon, Fog of War will be completely cleared. Altar of Lilith points will also be cleared. It's actually going to match the renown progress on your original Diablo 4 account. So if you've already done all your renown rewards and everything, you'll end up getting that completely covered off on your character for PTR. And of course, all the class system mechanics, things like enchantment for sorcerer, or like Book of the Dead stuff will be enabled for you for this character that you end up creating for PTR or any other characters that you create. And then all your
GGPT,
paragon
yes,
quests
exactly.
will be unlocked, and legendary drop rates will be doubled. And I believe glyphs are also...
Yeah, glyphs are maxed.
Yeah,
also.
glyphs are also maxed up. So you will have that capability there. There are like a few things that will be not present in PTR, but that is like, for example, one of the things is Codex of Power, but we'll explain why here in a minute. There's some more details related to Codex of Power for players to kind of understand why that's not present there. So we will be accepting, of course, feedback for the PTR across all our different social channels, across all our different community channels, and we will be turning on a specific PTR forum on Diablo4.com. That is not on right now, so no one can actually see it. But once that does come online, we will also be checking feedback there. So please provide feedback based off of everything that you are hearing today and playing through during PTR.
Dimitri, thank you very much. Enjoy
because the
the
team
training.
is going to be looking at
Kisses.
it and making sure that
Can we have a shout out when it's available for Xbox as well? Go and follow Xbox and GGPT, guys.
With that, now that we've gotten through the PTR like housekeeping notes, Mr. Joe Pipe,
Let's dive in. Okay,
let's dive in.
There is quite a bit to cover today, so we're going to try to move briskly through parts where we can. So there's three major things we're going to be discussing today. The first, Charles will be bringing us through a number of itemization and crafting changes you're going to see when Season 4 goes live. I want to also be very clear that the changes we're talking about today are all going to be on the Eternal Realm and on the Seasonal Realm. We're not actually talking about the season specifically today. We're really talking about this massive item update and these other updates that have been happening kind of in parallel to season development during this time. So that's going to be the first part. The next, I'll be guiding us through some of the new endgame content that we've
new endgame content. I like that
into the season 4 release, and then Adam Jackson is going to be coming on to talk about a lot of the live class updates making across the various mechanics of the game.
Thank you, Nikolai. Thank you for the shout-outs.
Let's go ahead and just, I guess, dive right in. Charles, if you don't mind taking us away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start talking about itemization. So when we think about the itemization updates, I think it's really helpful to frame this conversation around some of the goals that we have for the itemization update. So our number one main goal here is to focus on quality of items over quantity of items. So one of the persistent points of feedback that we've gotten since we've launched Diablo 4 last year was that a lot of the items that you find in dungeons and throughout the game, you end up just sifting through a lot of items, searching through your inventory and reading a lot of lines of text, and ultimately a lot of the items just end up being junk for you. And that was never really, it never really felt great.
So quality over quantity.
That's been our driving, our number one goal is to focus on making sure that when we do give you items, they're high quality items and much more likely to be useful for your build, rather than just flooding you with endless streams of often junk items. The second goal we have here is that the best items in the game, the really pinnacle ones that you get at the end game, they have a journey associated with them. As I said before, you were kind of sifting through your inventory and looking for these items, but once you found it, once you found that perfect item, you were pretty much done. It was basically a complete item, and you're already done with the item. You've completed it. We think that the game is a lot more engaging when you have a bit of a journey and investment, whether it be in time, crafting materials, and you really get to customize and make items your own and make it feel like this is for me and my build and my character.
Yeah, and feel that power progression too. It's so critical to the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third goal that we have here is to focus on moments of surprise and delight in the itemization chase. This leads to moments of, hey, I found the item. You get really excited about it, and you're just, you have these infrequent moments. It's not going to be all the time, but when you do find it, you're going to know it, you're going to feel it, you're going to be really excited about what just dropped. So with that, we have a number of topics within the itemization update. So the overview here is that we've got updates to existing systems, such as base items updates. We've got a few additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the itemization system. We've got some updates to Codex of Power, which we sort of alluded to earlier, and I think those are going to be some really big wins.
Base item
we also
updates.
have some new systems
Additional
being introduced
updates.
here. We've got
Codex of Power
tempering,
updates.
which is going to be a new customization system.
What is
Greater
tempering?
affixes, which help to
Wait.
provide some chase in the end game.
Greater
These are going to be
affixes,
some of the
master
most
working.
powerful items, ones that have greater affixes. And then once you do reach that end game with great gear, you're going to be able to masterwork it to really unlock its full potential and upgrade it to the best possible version that it can be.
What?
So let's hop into some of the base item updates. So this is where we're going to focus on making a smaller pool of affixes that are more relevant and more potent for your specific build. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the goals section, a lot of the affixes and stats that appear on items, they were often very conditional, right? You had like damage while berserking or damage to close enemies or things that were hyper specific and ultimately just were kind of meaningless in a lot of ways. They blended together.
Only sacred
really
items in tier 3,
in
only
this work,
ancestral
we're
items
focusing
tier
on
4.
reducing that
That's
pool
good.
of affixes
That's what we were talking
to
about,
be,
right?
more general, they're more applicable to
Fixed
a lot of
values
builds.
are
They're not going to be
punchier so
this
they can be felt.
hyper-specific conditional.
What does it mean?
And they're going to be more potent. So some examples here, we've got ranks of a single core skill. Sometimes on gear, you would find items that have ranks of upheaval, ranks of whirlwind, and ranks of double swing, all on the same item. And almost no build wants all three of those things at once. So we've made it so that, hey, only one of these can appear. That makes just the subset of items that you find much more likely to be relevant for you. And in terms of like being more potent, we're looking at things like in World Tier 3, only sacred items are going to appear. And then once you get into World Tier 4, only ancestral, only those most powerful versions of items will appear. This means you're just getting less junk, right? Sometimes you'd get sacred items in World Tier 4, and that never felt great because, hey, I'm in World Tier 4, I should be getting the best items now. We also did a pass on the affix values to make sure they're a bit punchier, that you could feel it when you really equip an item. This often was just some numerical tuning. In the past, you might get an item that said plus 2% critical strike chance, and honestly, it was hard to ever notice that, or like plus 5% damage or something like that. And those really small values were just hard to ever notice when you're swapping it, and it never felt like you got to upgrade your gear. So let's take a look at some examples here. Oh, right. So the other update is that we are reducing the total number of affixes on gear that initially drops. So legendary items used to drop with 4 affixes, 4 lines of stats. That's going down to 3. And then rare items, the yellow items, used to have up to 4, and now they'll just go down to 2. And yeah, so the goal here, once again, is to really focus on the quality of the affixes that appear on the gear rather than just the pure quantity. And this also gives us room to build on it in some of the later crafting and tempering systems. You are going to get more affixes, but the base item is going to start with a little bit less, just so we have room to grow.
We're going to get the base item with 3 affixes, and probably we will be able to craft the item with most affixes than 3.
Yes. Oh, they have changed it. Here, Jackson.
You find like a really, really powerful template item. So you get a max roll helmet with CDR and such, right? Like these are still really important for players. So as part of this change, we are going to open up trading to allow legendary items and unique items to also be
available trading at legendary items.
What? This is a big change.
They're going to do that?
Now, one distinction
nice.
here,
Hello,
to let people keep this in mind, is that crafting
Finally.
on either of these
Finally,
items,
bro, finally.
or masterworking or anything else later on down the road, these things like enchanting does today, these make these items
Finally, man.
So you can't trade them once you get them after you've done some crafting on them. So we think this does a great job of making sure that the trade economy is still interesting, and that when you're looking for a specific item or an item is dropped for you that a friend can use, it's going to be a lot easier for you to hand those things around.
Hello.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for the subscribe, man.
By the way, I'm good now.
Hi, Adam Jackson. Oh, yeah, Adam Jackson snuck in here.
Yeah. Trading is a big deal. Very important. I'm okay.
Literally appeared for trading.
He appeared for trading.
Nico, that's just a prediction. We're going to see why they removed one affix.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very important note, and I know a lot of people might have saw this and thought, "Oh, rare items are now, how can I trade?" But now you can still be trading these legendary items that you find if they're useful for you, or you think they might be useful for a friend.
Oh, and also, I should say also, uber unique items are not going to be tradable. in Season 4.
Everything that isn't an Uber.
Yeah, everything is not an Uber unique.
Sorry, exactly.
Those are the most powerful items, and if you want those, you're going to have to go and find them yourself.
So
That's right. Those are the most
we
powerful
will be
items in the
able
game
to
there.
trade anything
Right, so
apart
let's
from
take a
Uber
look
Unix.
at,
Okay, that's...
also, you're going to be able to trade Unix as well?
You know, kind of
Yes,
on the left
but not
of
Uber
the
Unix.
floor,
That's
this is
legit.
a
It's
bone
okay.
laceration. This was before our update. This
We
is
didn't
what
have
you
this
can
so far.
currently get on live. And you can see how it's got, you know, plus intelligence, vulnerable damage, damage to shadow damage over time affected enemies. That is a mouthful. Same with the lucky hit, chance to execute injured non-elites. These are the really hyper-specific affixes that we're talking about that really bloat items. It takes a while to parse this. Like, you just can't at a glance tell, hey, is this even good for me?
Yeah, reading through a number of conditional additive damage modifiers is like when you're like item to item, it's just very, it is taxing.
Especially when you really fill up your inventory with, you know, 30 plus of these items, trying to sort through them all at once when you just really want to get back into the action, right? You want to get back into fighting demons. So after this itemization update, in the after section here, we have got a similar item. It has intelligence. It has plus damage. That just applies to all of your damage. It's not, you know, hyper specific. And we still do get give you a larger bonus if you're hitting vulnerable enemies with this. And
Can you get an item now that gives you like int, dex, and strength on it?
No, in fact, because this wand just has intelligence on it, it is just the main stat for your class. So if you are a sorcerer, you're only going to find intelligence on items. If you're a bard, you're only going to find strength, and so on.
I can still find all stat, right?
Yes.
all stat
Yeah,
stuff
you still
on
have all stat, but no more are you going to find, oh, I got, you know, intellect on my barbarian. That's just basically a completely dead stat for you.
Got it.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the main itemization updates. Legendary item drops from monsters that are level 95 or higher are always going to be at item power 925. That is the highest
good, right?
item power in the game. And once you're really facing the toughest monsters in the game, we want to make sure that you're constantly getting the best possible items. This really comes back to our idea of quality over quantity. Once you're at this point of the game, you don't really care about anything that isn't 925, so why are we dropping that for you, right? You're going to be kind of graduating out of caring about item power because you just know that everything I'm getting is the maximum item power. Next, we've done a pass to update our gems. They are a little bit simpler. Some of the gems used to have, once again, those very conditional things like critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies was like one stat on one gem. So we've kind of simplified it, so we now just have bonus critical strike damage or bonus vulnerable damage. We've also added some updates to have core stats on them. So some of the gems will have strength, some will have dex, and so on. And they'll have a little bit of a longer crafting tail. They're a bit more powerful at the top end, but they do require a bit more investment to really unlock that highest power level. And once you have all the gems that you want, excess gems will now sell for quite a bit more gold. So that way you're not really going to waste once you have kind of found those best gems. Additionally, we've done a pass on the salvage crafting and rewards have all been retuned for this new world where we're dropping less items than before. Once again, we're focusing on you have less time sorting through your inventory and more time getting back in the action, more time slaying enemies to find those items.
Yeah, there's much less cruft in this version of the feature, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not walking out of a nightmare dungeon with 25 items. You have to go and deal with it back at the blacksmith.
But the ones that you do have are much more likely to be relevant and useful to you when you do find them. Additionally, we've item re-rolling, the enchanting system at the occultist. We know
you will get items with specific affixes for every class.
Currently.
That's okay. For example, if I'm playing Barbarian, I will only take items with strength, for example.
We put a cap on that.
This is bad for trading, though, because if I'm playing a sorcerer and I can't find an item with strength in order to trade it to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Taken a pass on the materials, the crafting materials, things like ore and herbs,
you're
and
only
some of the
going to be
other
able
crafting
to trade
materials in the
something
game.
with
And
another
a lot
barbarian.
of the ones we had some variety of like common herbs, so that were found in different zones, and there was some nice flavor there, but ultimately they didn't really provide much compelling gameplay. So we've consolidated all of like the common crafting materials into just a single type, just basically common herbs. And then there are still some rare ones to find to craft the most powerful elixirs and so on. But we've simplified that system so your collection is a little bit easier and more streamlined.
Yeah, we also removed things like there's like a lot of monster parts like Pale Tongue and things like that have been removed as part of this experience. It's going to make it a lot easier to craft elixirs in this new world.
Absolutely.
So,
and you don't have to scroll through that tab so long to see exactly what material you want to craft with. Yeah.
Especially when they ultimately just fed towards that same goal. And then the final update we've got is updates to the Forgotten Souls, right? So the late game crafting material that you use for a lot of the enchanting or other crafting systems, we're making them a little bit more accessible. They'll come from Whispers of the Dead caches, and they can also rarely drop globally from any elite in the game. And this is a really cool moment that you kind of have this jackpot moment. It's pretty rare when you kill elites.
Alexandra, with the prize. Thank you very much for the sub.
Of loot.
Thank you, Alexandra. Hello, how are you?
Spits out a ton of the Forgotten Souls or other loot or other crafting materials, and that's a really exciting moment when you encounter it in game. It's pretty rare, but you kind of hit the jackpot when that does happen.
We're okay. We're okay.
Outside of Helltide, right?
Oh yeah, that can happen on literally any elite in the game.
Uniques earlier in the experience.
Also, we're looking at updating our uniques. So unique items are these really build-defining, flashy, unique items, right? They are very powerful. Currently, they're locked behind just World Tier 3 and onward. They're really late game items, and we thought that to really get you into the fun faster, to get your build online. We've made it so that many of our uniques in the game can now start dropping in World Tiers 1 and 2, so you can start getting them earlier on in the experience and really get your build going much quicker. And then once you do get into World Tier 3, then all of the uniques in the game have the potential to start dropping, including Uber uniques, which are typically those very late game chase items. There is a chance that monsters starting at level 55 drop these Uber uniques. It's a pretty small chance. It's very rare, but it's one of those moments that you're going to find, if you're really lucky, you might find a Harlequin's Crest.
Yeah, you'll remember that 55. You'll remember that playthrough for sure.
Oh, you definitely will, right? And of course they'll drop. Oh,
I was gonna say, kind of going back to our goals of the itemization update in general, is that like at any time something really exciting can happen, right? That's the main impetus for doing this. Is that even early on in the game, you can get the main thing that you're looking for. It's going to be very rare, not very common, but it's possible. And even some of our other updates coming that you're going to explain is kind of going along that vein, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We want you to have the chance to really have that high roll moment, a really exciting moment when you find that awesome loot.
Okay.
So that covers the additional updates. We've got to talk about the Codex of Power. Right, so the Codex of Power is a system that has been in the game since launch, and we're making a big update here where now all legendary aspects of the game will start appearing in the Codex of Power.
Thank you.
Every single one. Previously, it was just a small subset.
Yes.
Finally.
And I believe we even have some in-game
Thank
footage
you, God.
and go through an example of what this looks like.
Yeah, we'll jump over to it. We have behind the scenes. We actually have Ruben, aka Bloodshed, former content creator, now part of the Blizzard team here on Diablo.
Finally.
He's actually driving us through our build here, but he will be
finally
through all our little demos that we have today. So
Awesome. Yeah, so you can see in our inventory right now, we've got Edgemaster's Siege Bow. And this has a little icon on it in the upper right in your inventory there. And that indicates that if you salvage this legendary, it will upgrade an aspect in the Codex of Power when you salvage it.
That's right. So you no longer need to go to the occultist to extract aspects in any way. Because aspect crystals are no longer a thing in this new version of the Codex of Power.
Yeah, aspect crystals are gone. It's just when you salvage the legendary, it will upgrade it. So we salvage it, we can see that Edgemaster's aspect has been upgraded in the Codex of Power
immediately.
Thank you, Lord, thank you.
So we've got Edgemaster's aspect here. That skills deal up to 6% increased damage based on your available resource when cast. So that is the kind of legendary rank of the one that we just salvaged. Now this says 6% here. In game it was 12% because it was on a two-handed bow, and that doubles the range. But you can see it's not a minimum roll. Right now on live Diablo 4, it's always just a minimum roll, and so once you find something better, a better aspect crystal, the Codex is kind of irrelevant. Now the Codex will continue being relevant because every time you find a higher roll of it, It's going to upgrade your codex, and you can continually re-imprint this legendary power onto any gear that you find going forward.
Your highest possible roll of aspect.
Very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice.
You can go ahead and salvage that.
So if we found the same aspect in the better version, it's gonna erase the previous one. It's gonna this one, right? Very nice.
It will be upgraded at last, man. At last.
Finally. So we're not gonna have to find to seek to see and spend time to find out which is the best one.
Super lucky, you have it forever.
You are super lucky, and you would have that forever. Yes.
And it's not consumable. You're gonna imprint one of your items, and this is not gonna be consumed.
You won't be able to find a max roll of these legendaries in
your highest possible roll
when you're just starting out your journey.
Nice, very nice, very nice.
Extended the range, so a lot of legendaries used to say, hypothetically, if a legendary rolled between 20% and 30%, now we've extended that range from 20 to 35%.
So
but
far,
those like 30 to 35%, the highest,
most basic things that we were asking about, right?
Those are only going to be accessible in World Tier 4.
Trading legendary items and Codex of Power, man. There are both crucial changes in the game, the quality of life.
But then you're going to find even better versions as you progress through the World Tiers.
And if we actually, can we
at last they're listening
really quickly, because Ruben, if you can pull up the Codex of Power really quickly.
Show the UI.
Excellent UI.
Yeah, because one big thing is like there. I know we.
What are the comments of the live? Because I cannot watch.
Searching through everything, which is really nice. And then, of course, on the icons as well, I think people are probably seeing these numbers
on the changes.
It's something that is changed obviously with this new Codex of Power, where it's showcasing.
You see, if you want something defensive, you have the defensive category. If you want to set for an offensive aspect, you have the offensive.
And of course, there's different ranks as you're kind of like leveling.
You have all possible filters in order to find your.
I really love that gold border to really indicate that, hey, you found the best version, you've kind of completed this, and some of them you kind of cheat on it, right? Things that only have one rank. As soon as you unlock it, you get the best version.
Yeah, that's an example of one that you could max out in World Tier 1.
You probably could, but most of them have now up to 16
now
ranks.
You have another target.
Standard,
you have
for the
to level up your aspects.
And those highest ranks are just going to be in the
you're going to have to level up your aspects?
Yes.
You see, 1 of 16, 1 of 16, 1 of 16, 2 of 16.
Oh, like the stones. If you find
extend it up.
Oh, nice, very nice.
For the most part, these have increased in power at the highest level.
Are moved in the codex. You don't have to have them in the stats.
I'm sure there's people asking specifically about.
And also, you're going to be able to upgrade.
Seasonal thing? Is this an
if you find 16 of them, they're going to be upgraded.
This is everywhere forever. This is the new world.
This is
nice, very nice.
That's right. All the updates we're talking about today, once again, are for the Eternal Realm and for the seasonal.
And they were not even talking about seasonal changes.
Nothing about seasonal changes.
They're universal changes.
They are talking about the optimization so far.
Yeah. What they have changed. I note, like Codex of Power with seasonal characters, of course, will end up change. Like every single time
it
there's
does
a new
reset.
season,
Yes.
it does.
The same way that it does today.
The set is going to be a big one.
Characters,
they have a lot of things to discuss.
Actually fill it out
eternally.
Yes,
eternally.
Of course. All right, so that was a ton on the systems that already exist in the game, right? The base item affixes.
Πάμε στα καινούργια. Sorry for the creep. Let's go to the new ones.
Let's go to the new ones.
Systems coming.
We're not done with optimization.
That was updates to existing things, but we've got a lot of new stuff.
Okay,
so
let's go.
talk about tempering. Tempering is a new crafting system
New crafting
that will
system,
allow
finally.
you to add really cool new affixes to your items.
Finally, man, I'm gonna try.
So I really just want to highlight that this is not just taking those old really conditional nitty-gritty aspects or affixes. This also includes a lot of really new exciting affixes as well that we'll showcase a bit later. Things like a chance to cast bonus projectiles. Increased effect size of your skills, and other ways of talking directly to individual skills. A lot of this lives in tempering. And so this way you can really customize your character
this is a new crafting system,
specifically to your build and the skills that you're using and the way you want to play. So you might be asking, well, how do we temper? We've got tempering manuals. So these are items, manuals that are going to drop from most content in the game. This isn't something you need to go target farm. You're just going to find these as you're playing. And these manuals are going to be a list of possible affixes that are kind of themed to individual builds. So if you are a bone necro, for instance, you know the manual for bone necro might have things specifically to bone spear and bone splinters and bone spirit. When you do the tempering, which is done at the blacksmith, it will attach a random one of the affixes from that manual onto the item that you're tempering. And if you don't get the exact one that you want, or you don't get the roll that you want, you can re-roll these affixes up to the item's tempering durability. Now this is a lot.
Yeah, let's see an example.
Let's see an example because I haven't got a clue about it.
Show
walk
people
through,
what it looks
right?
like.
Yeah, so here's some screenshot examples of the actual recipes that appear. So on the left, we've got the Manual of Natural Motion. This is a generic recipe that really applies to any class. It's got a variety of movement speed options on it. So you've got, you might just attach movement speed to your gear. Maybe you get a higher value of movement speed.
Look, the new affix chance for bone spear projectiles to cast twice.
Cooldown or give you mobility skill.
So this is if you do the tempering thing, right? The new graphic system.
Mobility
yeah, there are both
things like teleport or charge.
recipes to add to an item.
And then on the right, we've got one that is
for
more
bone
specific to
splitters projectiles to
necromancers,
cast
because
twice.
this is the bone
Chance for
necro
bone
one that I
spear
mentioned
projectiles to
before.
cast twice.
We've
The
got a
necromancer
chance for
again.
bone splinter projectiles to cast twice.
Explosion
chance
size.
for bone
What
spear
is that, man?
projectiles to
That's
cast
new.
twice. Increase the size of your bone
I'm gonna play
spear
necromancer
explosion,
That's very cool.
or
The
increase
left
the
one,
duration of
it's
your
a
bone storm. So
mobility
if you're a bone
recipe,
necro,
the right one
of these
is
probably
weapon
gonna be
recipe.
pretty
But
relevant to
which
you,
one of
and
four
would be
affixes
really,
you can add to your
a cool
item?
way of
I have no
customizing
fucking
your
idea.
character
Probably
and
they're
your
gonna show us
skills.
an example, right?
Oh, I am
So
wet.
here's an example of the UI. So on the left, we've got
crafting system,
this
new crafting
Choker
system.
of Ancestral Charge, one of my favorite legendaries, currently on Season 3. And so it's got the relatively simpler affixes. It's got just max life, damage, and critical strike chance. And we go to the blacksmith, we put it into the menu here, and we can see that there are kind of 6 categories,
You can
with 5 of
add
them being highlighted. These categories are the categories
5
of
affixes
recipes.
on an
So
item
each
for
recipe
crafting?
corresponds
It
to one of these
says
categories.
temper durability remaining
And,
5. So
on
you can
amulets,
probably
put
add
anything
5 or
except the
reroll
weapons
another one if you
category.
don't
So
like
that's
it.
why,
And you
offensive,
have 5
defensive,
chances.
utility,
It's like
mobility,
the
and resource
it's like in
are all
last book
highlighted.
the
And
salvage.
once we go through this, we can do this twice.
The crafting,
because most
The
items
temper
can only be,
durability remaining,
tempered
it's like
once.
forging
You can get just
potential
one
It's like
last
forging
step.
potential
But
last step,
ancestral
exactly.
items,
That's
these
what I was
really
wanting to
late
say. I forgot
game
the
tier
word.
4 items can be
Forging
tempered
potential. It's
twice
exactly the same
think-
thing.
from 2 separate categories.
Probably, yes, that's-
so you
that's what
can't
it is.
put, say, 2 defensive ones on there. You're going to diversify.
So we have
and in
a
this case, we've
completely
got charge
different
cooldown reduction
crafting
added
system.
on the right. And we've also got some bonus damage while berserking. So we've got an offensive one here, and then we've got a utility one that gives us the cooldown reduction.
Which of course is better than the one that we had
Do
already
we
so far,
have
right?
So you see,
a live example of this,
okay,
of
okay,
going
let's
through this
go.
actual flow, so we can
No,
kind
it
of show
says
you what this ends up looking
yeah,
like?
please show, please show.
Once again,
Look.
yep, that's right there.
Look.
Points at the blacksmith.
Yes.
And you're gonna do it
So in
in
here, we've
blacksmith
got
now.
you know,
No,
our
okay, this.
bow of branching volleys. We can put in here. Because this is a weapon, we can attach ones from the offensive category. And
What?
so here's all the examples. We've got 5 different recipes that we've unlocked here, depending on how we want to build our
So we're
character.
gonna find
if we want
recipes
to do,
now.
say, marksman skills to put on there, we can do marksman finesse.
I'm gonna
And this
cry,
will
man,
give us either
finally.
bonus marksman damage. Why don't we just temper it and see what it looks like? So we get this flashy animation that comes in, and we get to see, hey, we added 29%
You
marksman
called
damage.
it.
Right?
Actually worked out quite nicely, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's awesome.
random
So,
which one of the
scripted,
4
by the
affixes
way.
of the
Definitely not
recipe
scripted. So yeah,
is gonna add it in your item.
Actually,
you were actually
After adding this affix, you can
One thing I
reroll
want to
it.
call out also,
Yes,
we're looking at
and
this,
it has
is that, like, so
durability
we
5
are
for this
in
one.
season
We
4
have
update,
crafting
so
system.
this
We have a
PTR
crafting
update
system.
we're talking
We have a
about.
crafting system, exactly.
This is,
Let's
this is our
start from
first
this one.
PTR update. There's a lot of changes we have going in, and there's some things that are going to be are kind of in the middle of being polished now, or kind of getting wrapped up
listen.
for some things in dev. There's going to be
Finally.
some things
I'm gonna
that players
cla-
will see
I'm
on
gonna-
the PTR,
I'm gonna-
they're
I'm
like,
gonna
oh,
go
this
and
is
play
like
with my bully
not
after
quite
that.
like what I expect. Or there's like there might find bugs and things.
Yep.
That's kind of the nature of the PTR experience.
Yeah.
We want you to report those, like Adam called out a little bit earlier, and get your feedback on the experience.
Yeah,
But-
that's actually a really good reminder, because I think a lot of people haven't experienced PTR, especially if you're like kind of new to Diablo and you do jump in. PTRs will have bugs. It is an early look at the build.
polished.
Well, that's why the
So
PTR
there
is
will be
taking
bugs,
place, right?
Polished things that
To
won't
find
be
the fix the bugs.
incorporated. So yes, provide feedback on all those things so that we can actually hear those and make changes for those.
But if we throw back to Ruben real quick, the thing I wanted to point out was like when the masterwork, when the tempering process went through, it said you got 28% for the that marksman damage, but the item itself got a slightly different number. There's just a bug that we've identified that we're in the middle of fixing right now.
Right, that's just a display bug, but this is one of the things that we're working on, we're aware of, and going to polish up, because that's the nature of game
from
Just
development.
the
for the
4 of
eagle-eyed
these,
among the viewers.
Yes.
it added
this is
the
the
marksman
All right,
damage
so
or
a
the
few
critical
other
strike.
things to call out.
I think damage.
here. Let's actually close this menu and then take a look at when it's in there. We can talk about tempering durability a little bit.
Yes,
so you
master working. What is master working?
We've got tempered affixes. You can temper
I don't have a beer. I need a beer now.
Me too.
So you're going to be able to put one weapon.
What is master working? I saw something new there.
And then there's this tempering durability remaining.
We can
this
re-roll
is
the
how many
tempered
times you
affixes.
can re-roll the tempered affixes. The first ones that you attach should not be consuming tempering durability. I think this one might have one of those bugs where it did consume it, but ultimately this is going to be the number of times you can re-roll.
Yep. We're actually going to update the string. I think it's going to literally be called tempering re-rolls.
Re-roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
to make it really, really clear. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the kind of things that we're actively working on, and we love your feedback on to make sure that we can get this right and really communicate the way the system works.
So now you're gonna.
So we've attached an offensive.
You're gonna change your items if you find another one with better durability remaining.
So here we've got ones that not great.
Nice. I like it.
Build.
Yeah,
live build indeed.
Live build.
Well, so we can talk through what would have happened there.
Yeah.
Right, so when you would attach the weapon category, those are often the ones that are the more, I would say more interesting, right? The bonus projectiles, the bonus effect size.
Yeah, that was the weapon category that had a chance to create different, like multiple bone splinters, or
Yes.
twice rather.
Yeah, that's in the weapon category. So there we would attach one of those. You know, maybe we'd get a chance for rapid fire projectiles to fire an extra time. And then when we do that, you know, maybe, we actually want to play a penetrating shot build, right? Maybe rapid fire is great. We could consume one of the tempering durabilities to reroll that and try to get that bonus rapid fire projectile.
We're not even the half of the road.
At least
Hello,
people now
Socrates.
believe it's live.
People still think we weren't doing it live.
Looking at it.
Can I have a second? Socrates, guys. Go and follow Socrates.
Build back up here and everything. But
There's a lot of really cool new affixes in general inside the tempering system. Like I know that, like I've been playing a lot of Season 4, like on our dev build, and I'm playing a Barbarian right now, and I've been playing a lot with
base
with
affixes
devils, we'll
for the items are reduced to 3.
But there's like opportunities to like spawn, like
In the
spawn one
legendary.
dust devil, you'll spawn
Yes,
multiple
and
dust
the
devils,
first
dust devil size. There's a lot of really
we see till
iteration.
now,
Like, there's a lot of really neat
the
new
tempering
things
process.
to play with to build upon other
That you can add
profiles. I think it's really
one or
fun.
two more affixes via tempering.
That's really the goal
We
of
haven't
tempering
seen
is
master working yet.
customization and really cool
I have no idea
new
what the
ways of
fucking
building your character.
master working
It's
is
not
about,
just
all about.
plus damage.
Christo,
There
hello.
is still some bonus damage as
Christo,
you
we
still
have
need to in
great
order to
changes here.
actually do
I
damage.
don't know if you were
There's a lot
watching.
of ways you can customize your skills and make it really your own.
Now, right now, you can temper legendary items
Correct.
and rare items, but you can't temper unique items.
Correct. Unique items, what you see is what you get, right? They drop still with the 4 affixes for the most part.
Okay, unique cannot be changed.
Those are going to be unchanged. You won't be able to temper on them.
Unique cannot be changed in the last epoch as well.
And then we show the tempering durability.
In any game, I
as far
think.
as
In any game, yeah, that's why they call it unique.
In this case.
This is
So
what
the
it is,
idea
right?
here is that, like, when the player
Yeah, but
has,
not even in,
you're not happy with all
POE.
the affixes
That's
you got, you
the-
can re-roll through all of your options.
Get
Well,
ready for
well,
blood.
well, POE has a lot of changes as well. We're gonna watch POE tomorrow.
Set that item back down.
There's a lot of
Now,
changes as
one of the
well. I read a lot
goals,
of changes
that we
are
have for
coming.
ourselves in terms of like trying to have higher quality drops in general is to make it so it's a little bit easier, and also ensuring like it's easier for you to reach those 925 capped items when you start to really deeply engage in features like this. Is you want to make it a little bit easier for you to go find some of those really good baseline templated items for you to start building on top of, as opposed to having it be like, I need to find like 70 helmets in the hopes I find a
So,
maximum
yeah,
cooldown
so
reduction
far,
on it, right? Like
the game looks like
we're
a
in
different game,
place
man.
now in terms of
Gonna
how to
play
think
a
about
different-
that.
a whole different
In addition
game.
to the crafting,
We haven't even
trading
seen the
changes
end
we've
game.
made
They
as
said
well.
they're gonna add
Wanna make it
a
little
new
bit
end
easier
game.
to find some of these things between it being a lot easier to have drops that are relevant for you appear when you're doing various types of content, but also that if you're playing with friends, there's opportunities for you to maybe trade some things around at the same time.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about finding really strong base items to build off of. And I think that goes great into our next point where we talk about greater affixes. So greater affixes are affixes that
meaning
appear
a
in
POE,
the
okay.
late game. They are more powerful versions
Be specific,
of the normal
so right now
affixes.
we're
They
watching
come at a
Diablo, not POE.
1.5x multiplier on the affixes max roll. So let's say a hypothetical affix might come between like 50 to 100 of a stat. If it rolls greater, then you actually get 150
Max, they're talking
of that
about you,
stat
they say max
instead.
roll.
Instead of the roll, it always comes in at max. So it comes in at that 150 mark. these are really exciting drops when you get into the late game. They're going to be immediately obvious whenever they drop on the ground. They're going to have a little change to the UI,
well, yeah,
so you can see it right away, and you know, hey, that one has greater affixes on it. And that's going to be ones that you're really going to want to pick up and make sure that you take a look at, and then you really want to build off of because they're some of the strongest affixes in the game. I think we've got an example here. And one other note, these, as I mentioned, they're late game. They only appear on Ancestral Legendary items and Ancestral Uniques. That's
126 intelligence.
I think we can zoom in on the top one here, where we can see we've got a little, like some Roman numerals at the end of it, 2. That indicates that this pair of gloves has 2 greater affixes.
Greater affixes.
And when you actually go and pick it up, we can take a look at the tooltip of the
You see the points, the bullets that are highlighted?
Intelligence here is highlighted, and so is critical strike damage. And these roll up.
What did they say, man? I missed
it. I
it.
think we've got a comparison kind of.
We're going to have greater affixes.
You know,
look the comparison of the 2 items.
Version. So on the left is
look the highlighted bullets on the right one. There are greater affixes.
That's double, almost double.
And maybe it rolled between 70 and 80.
How can you take these affixes?
Only from endgame content.
And that's going to always give you 126, which is 1.5 times the 84.
So the greater affixes, I'm going to be able to
find the dagger on the right.
Take them.
That's a really good one. I mean,
not
only
able
do you
to
have 2
craft
greater
them
affixes, you
or
also max
take an item
in between. That is a
I
great
think
base item to start
till now
building,
they said from an item
through the tempering system on.
Late game crafting system of great items.
Masterworking.
Let's go.
Masterworking.
What the fuck is
Masterworking is a late game crafting system that we're going to use to upgrade the items.
Second crafting addition to the game.
A really good base item. Maybe it has some greater affixes on it. And then you've tempered on the affixes that you want. You know, hey, you've found the exact affixes that are specific to your build that you've attached onto it. Now you're really pushing into the late game content. It's time to start masterworking. And masterworking has 12 ranks where you can upgrade the current affixes on your gear. So this isn't going to change any of the affixes like enchanting or like tempering does. This is just going to take the current ones and then upgrade them through 12 ranks.
This is kind of like the old gear upgrade, right?
Similar, yes. However, both masterworking and tempering are replacing the old gear upgrade system. The previous system, when you just kind of upgraded the item power and the values went up by a bit, these 2 systems replace that, and now you're going to be able to customize them and then masterwork them instead.
It's significantly more powerful on the back end of this as well after these things are done. Compared to item upgrade,
Absolutely. So the 12 ranks of masterworking, as opposed to the 5 of the old system, most of the ranks are going to increase all of your affixes on the gear by a small amount. But then every 4 ranks, so rank 4, 8, and 12, are going to upgrade a single affix by a large amount. So here's an example. The ring on the left is rank 2 masterworking. You can see that right up there by the item power.
The masterworking
2 out of 12. Let's focus in on like the maximum life affix there. So on the left at rank 2, you see we've got 880.
Besides the masterworking that they are talking now, look the new affixes on the bottom of the item.
920 maximum
life.
So a little bit of an improvement. But then once we hit rank 4, we actually get a much larger increase in maximum life. It goes from 920 all the way up to 1,120, while the other affixes on the gear stay static because they didn't roll randomly because we're only hitting 1. To Joe's point earlier about we still have some in development. This is in development content. It's not final, as the watermark says. The tempered affixes at the bottom, the Golem active cooldown reduction and the Bone critical strike damage, those also would be being upgraded and are eligible to have this this larger bonus. But in this particular screenshot example, those numbers didn't change.
So
but they
you are going to be able to upgrade and change more than one affix in a single item.
Just like all the rest of them. But yeah, so as you go through,
I didn't understand if we are going to be able to upgrade
4, 8, and 12,
massively upgrade one specific affix, or
so
if it's
you
random.
Really, really lucky and you really need a lot of maximum life, you know, you might get just a ton of maximum life every time that increases. Or it could be on one of your tempered affixes. You could get tons of Golem cooldown reduction if that's the kind of build that you're looking for. And once you fully masterworked an item, you if it didn't really pan out the way you wanted to, the random rolls didn't quite go your way, you are able to reset it and try it again, but you will kind of lose all the materials that you've invested into but you can try that again. It doesn't completely lock you out of it.
Right. So once you've got like a really great pair of gloves or whatever that you've tempered at this point, you've enchanted to get exactly the affix you wanted off it. Maybe you got some greater affixes on it in the first place when you started. Then you take that item into, assuming you got through all that process, you can take it into the masterworking feature, and then you can kind of keep going at it.
Yeah.
Nice, very nice.
Absolutely.
To kind of hopefully crit exactly the affixes you're looking for.
Yeah, and if you do get that right, you find something that's got critical strike damage, and then you hit all 3 times on it, super upgraded.
It's random.
That's going to be
you upgrade
via
masterworking, and it's random which affix is going to be massively upgraded. That's why you have a chance to reset and start over again.
That's going to be a really powerful item that is going to be very memorable when you get all that coming together. I think we've got an example here to really highlight all of these systems taken together. So on before, this was that boned one restoration that we talked about right at the beginning.
It sends more than one affix now.
List to just more simple intelligence.
It sends 3 affixes.
And on the right, we can see it
upgraded the 3 affixes that we had.
So we've got bone, bone spirit damage. We've got chance for a bone splinter projectile.
No, the two bottom affixes on the right item are from tempering.
From tempering, it doesn't matter. I mean, what you can do, what you can do in an item in general.
When we got up
so there are 2 different types of crafting.
And you can see how we've taken this progression, this item progression.
For the basic affixes and for the greater work, the master work.
All the way up to Masterworking 12, this is really kind of the pinnacle of what items can be.
Yes, you have a base item with 3 affixes. That you can add 2 more affixes from plenty of choices. And then if you find this specific tool that you need for your build, you can start masterwork your item.
Nice, very nice.
If you're not satisfied with the masterwork, you can reroll and start again. And you can reroll the affixes and you can reset the item. We have choices now.
So this is masterworking 12 out of 12. So we're going to have 12 chances to upgrade it and see the outcome.
Absolutely.
In terms of like lucking out on this,
you have 12 levels. But the massive upgrade to one of the affixes every 4 levels. 4, 8, and 12.
And there's 3 randomly selected 25% upgrades to one of those affixes. So if you're very, very fortunate and you manage to triple up on a particular stat,
αυτό τώρα που απάντησε ο Χρήστος ήταν πριν κάνα μισά.
Tremendous upgrade for that affix overall.
And if you want to go hard into one affix,
that's source of change, man. We have a crafting system. Finally,
we have 2 crafting systems actually. We have a whole new crafting system idea.
Bonus projectiles, because those are cool and flashy.
Well, I'm gonna miss the
bone spears everywhere.
Absolutely. But of course, you might be asking, okay, new items are great. Well, what am I going to do with all of these new items?
Before we even bridge to me, okay, this is a really good bridge. So 2 things I want to call out. One, masterworking works on unique items.
Correct.
Yes. So some of those really, really cool affixes that can appear on unique items, not the power of the unique item, but a lot of like the really specific unique affixes, those all benefit from the masterworking process as well, which are really significant, right? So I think that there's something really, really fun there. Also, you can make sure that when some of these unique items are dropping, they also can have greater affixes attached to them. So those same unique affixes that we're talking about, that is huge. Now you get an extra 50% value on top of that.
Yeah.
So you get 50% value on top of a unique item affix, and then on top of that you masterwork it. It can get really, really bonkers.
Man,
so there's a good chase in
tons of changes.
So
tons of
changes. For player trading and everything else, there's still lots of
the whole thing
exciting stuff for players to find.
Yeah, and the other thing I've seen a little bit of this in chat as well as a lot of people are going hey, when are we actually able to experience this?
PTR.
PTR. Well, first PTR, and also at the same time, this is
you can get a unique item at level 20 now.
Immediately with Season 4.
But the difference here is that you can get the same unique item at tier 4 at 100 level with greater affixes and masterwork this item. You cannot get an item at level 50 and say, I'm done.
The itemization changes and all the changes you're hearing today will start.
The whole thing connects to the addition of the endgame content, though. And I believe that they're going to add a lot of stuff at endgame content because of all this.
That's what we're waiting, because they said, okay, what are you going to do with these new items? So probably that's where we're going to move now, right?
The way that you get them is you can only get them from things that drop. So you're actually looking for that moment when you kill the mob, kill the enemy, the loot drops. That's the exciting moment that we're targeting. Enchanting is still going to exist. You can still enchant your affixes like normal, and those 3 ones that drop. You cannot enchant into a greater affix. You can enchant out of a greater affix. So if you choose to, if you've got like a 1 greater affix item, you can enchant that greater affix to something else, but it won't change to another greater, and you can't change anything into a greater. It's all about killing monsters, finding that moment that is really exciting when the item drops, seeing if that works for you. So I just wanted to clarify that on how enchanting works and kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. Focusing on the drop, the moment of excitement.
Is the moment of excitement that we're going for there.
All right, and then one other thing I want to call out as well that we didn't talk about already, and that is that there's a lot of other changes that we haven't actually discussed here that you'll see when you get to play in the PTR. But one of them I think is really cool is we actually add a bunch of other new baseline rare affixes that can appear on items.
Yeah.
That like players haven't seen before.
Yes.
You know, so there's as an example of a few of these, we have like Fury per second. You know, can appear on items, which is very, very exciting and very interesting for my barbarian friends.
Yeah,
it's very transformative. Like there's a number of other ones like life per hit. Is now something that players can find as you're going through the experience. Like, are there any that you thought of that are kind of cool, or
and also ones that are cool and powerful that appear on different slots. So previously, weapons almost always had bonus damage of some sort. We've extended that so a lot of weapons can now have resource cost reduction. They can have bonus attack speed and other things that increase your output through not just saying damage to a certain way. More interesting ways of increasing your output.
Yeah, very cool.
To me, bonus projectiles. That's just the most popular. I'm terrified of it. It's so cool though, but it's gonna be
really cool.
Having bonus projectiles drop and then have that potentially be a greater affix when it goes, and then you masterwork bonus projectiles, and it gets silly.
Yeah.
I know we want to talk about some end game stuff that's coming to the game. Maybe we leave that for the end of the stream itself, right before we go into Q&A. Is there I'm going to ask production here, I'm going to pivot them. Is there a way that we can jump to
okay, so we're going to discuss about them game content, but at the end.
You next.
We got kind of a shrug, so like, I think so.
Yeah, we'll go through the end game stuff here because we do have a lot of additional things that we still need to talk about that even pair with this itemization, these itemization changes. But we'll jump into class changes really quickly. And
sure, we can go to me next.
Class changes.
Do it.
What do you mean, man?
Take us away, Adam.
All right.
With all these things, all the bits are gonna change.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got kind of 3 big goals for class updates. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to try and breeze through a little quick in the interest of time. The first one is going through a very high volume of meaningful class updates. And what I mean by meaningful is not just moving numbers up and down on things that exist, but kind of either updating systems of how things interact at a systemic level, or adding things that are really, really powerful and are actually going to move the needle and change how you interact with the class or the skill or the legendary or whatever we're changing. Next one is making flat damage effects more viable. So by flat damage, I'm talking about things like dust devils, earthquakes, dancing bolts, all these things. I talked a few Campfire chats ago about how I wanted to make these things like a lot more viable and scale better, and we're going to be making good on that in Season 4. I'm excited we'll go into more details, but yeah, that's one of the big things that's changing this season. And last but not least, opening up designs to be more generally useful. So kind of similar to item affixes, how you've got these like multi-conditional things. We're going through classes across the board and going and looking for ways that we can open up things. So you're going to find that things that were a little more restrictive, we're going to try and interact with more different pieces. So something may have only talked to core skills, now it can be any skill, things like that, where we're trying to make things less conditional so that you can mix and match things a lot more often. So, yeah, in addition to those 3 things, those are our goals. I'm also going to be talking a little bit today about PTR balance and hardcore updates. And a little PSA, everything that you see here right now, the tuning is still in flux. We're going through the balancing process right now of these things. So any exact numbers that you see of updates is very much subject to change, not only before PTR, but of course one of our goals for you playing PTR is helping us with the tuning and balance, because everything is going to be changing. So yeah, expect things to change, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So first, let's talk about uniques. So in Season 4, you're going to be getting double the normal amount of uniques added to the game. Normally every class gets 1, every class is going to be getting 2 this time. So again, more content. We're also adding a new Uber unique here.
I love Tira, man.
This is a defensive-oriented unique. It's going to be a chess piece. So you can see the stats there. Lots of resistance-oriented things and damage reduction. By the way, in this new world, damage reduction is going to be much harder to come by. So it's actually a lot more special that it exists here. And the special power of this is that when you're at maximum life, so when you have, you know, the entire life bar full, you're going to be shooting out projectiles very similar to the barbarian, right? So you can see here kind of in action, you can see that sometimes he's attacking and it's not going off, and then as he heals up, you get those...
It's for everyone, it's super unique.
It's really, really flashy and cool.
No, I meant this character is barbarian.
So yeah, class updates. Like I mentioned before, we're really looking to move the needle on these. We are still going to be having a number of changes, quite a few of just things going up and down for tuning.
You have a new version with the name of Tyrell.
Systems and designs. I'm going to give you some examples. Now, everything I talk about here today, I'm giving you a small snippet of the things that we're doing, like 1 or 2 examples per class, but when you get the patch notes, you're going to see it's like a giant wall. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing everywhere.
Just a slice of the overall pie.
Yeah. So, some examples here. Skill tag updates. So we're not only doing this on the sorceress, but on other classes as well, but this is the one example I want to give. One of the pain points that sorceress has always had is that they have kind of core skills and then mastery skills.
Oh,
mastery
guys
skills
are gonna love
like Firewall, Meteor, things like that. And the mastery skills, we're always kind of second class to the core skills because we had a lot of things that scaled core skill damage, but not mastery skill damage.
Many Book of the Dead
so we've updated our skill tags and kind of changed things around so that they make more sense. So you're going to see more skill tags added to things across the board. And the example here is that mastery skills will also just have the core skill tag. They'll be considered both mastery and core skills. So all your core skill damage bonuses, interactions, all that stuff will just
gonna have a lot of new builds, man.
Did you have something?
Yeah, we also talked about like mobility skill tag added to a lot of skills as well, and how that interacts with the tempering system. You have ways of getting mobility skill cooldown reduction that ties into the same concept.
We're actually adding the mobility skill tag to all things across all classes that have mobility attached to them, so then they can interact with the itemization system, and you'll have these things working in tandem together. That's a good point. Yeah, so now some other examples. Frozen Orb on the Sorceress is getting a lot of love. Before, when you cast it, it would go an exact set distance and then blow up, but now it's going to go exactly where you point it at it to with your cursor. So, you know, you're not going to hit your life if you run into like a suppressor elite, for example. You can actually make it fire point blank or all the way across the screen. And we'll actually be showing some video of that as well later. We also have a new unique that we're going to have video of that's really awesome. So Frozen Orb Sorceresses are going to be really happy this season. And next, Necromancer. I've been talking for a while about Necromancer minions and how we're going to make them better. We're delivering on that in Season 4. The first change is that they're going to inherit 100% of the player's stats. So, you know, your crit chance, crit damage, all those things, they're just going to inherit it from you. So they're going to scale way better with you, the player. And this is not only going to apply to Necromancer minions, but all minion types in our game. Things like Druid Wolves are also going to be inheriting this and are going to get a pretty big power bump. We're also looking. We took a look at the Book of the Dead and basically revamped everything. All the upgrades almost are getting some type of either number or big functionality change. And I'm going to go through some examples there. But it's just going to be a lot more punchy. We're not only looking for effectiveness here, like making things stronger. We also like the rule of cool, where you know the things that are awesome and look cool and are visual are going to stand out more. And so we're trying to do that as much as we can. So next, let's talk about game balance. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, you know, the landscape of everything is changing pretty drastically, right? Itemization is going to be changing a lot of how player power works and how things work in the game. We've got a lot of class updates that are going to be changing how things are. You can expect a pretty big shakeup of like just how all the different classes and builds perform. Like it's going to be a brave new world really here. But, you know, normally we promised a while back that we're going to do lists of everything that's perceived as a nerf. I'm not going to be going through every single thing today. You'll be able to see everything in the patch notes on the PTR, and that's mostly in the interest of time, just because there's so much change that's happening. But I am going to give you, a snippet to do good on that promise of kind of how the game is now, and some things that you can expect that are going to be lowered in power in the future. So some examples here. Generally, Tybalt's Will, everyone's favorite pants, right? And not only is it really good because the effect is good, but also it's damage on pants, which makes it really, really good. That damage amount is being reduced. Same with Banished Lord's Talesman. Both of these uniques are insanely powerful. They're still going to be really good after this, but the damage is just being lowered so that other things can be competitive. Next, the Barbarian, everybody's favorite charging class. First thing that we're doing is, many of you may not know this, but when we launched the game, we actually gave them 10% inherent damage reduction. This was back when melee classes in general and the Barbarian were having trouble in the early game. Our game balance has changed radically since then, and we don't feel like they really need this anymore. And we don't want them to have an inherent advantage over all the other classes in the game anymore. So that's going to be removed. And even like I mentioned before when Charles was talking, damage reduction in general is going to be much more rare and special. You're not just going to find it on any defensive stat. When you see it, it's going to be something that you're going to really value because it's hard to come by. And we also think barbarians are still going to be really good in this regard.
So the next
skill
barbarian
tree has a lot of it. Their skills like challenging shout have it. So I think they're going to be fine, but we're just removing this extra part. Also, we're reducing the effectiveness of Charge, Hammer of the Ancients, and Unbridled Rage. All three of these things have been incredibly powerful.
Actually,
some things like Unbridled Rage have kind of been stamping out competing things for a long time just because it's so good.
They had to nerf him.
Our goal here is not to remove these from the game or make these builds not viable at all.
Yes.
They're going to be reduced, but I still think they're
going to be powerful, right? Because they have a lot of new things to do.
And next, we're going to go over to the Sorcerer. We got a couple bug fixes here. We have more bug fixes than this, but this is just some that I wanted to call out. The first one, we had one where the evade cooldown reduction affix was triggering off of unstable currents casts. And so what this basically meant was you equip those boots to have evade cooldown reduction, and then you use unstable currents, and you had like infinite uptime on teleport evades, which made you just teleport around forever. This has been fixed, so now it's only going to work with intentional casts now as it was intended to. And the next one is Isu's Ferocity. This is a key passive on the Sorcerer that used to apply its critical strike damage to all damage types, but it was the fire key passive. Now it's only going to apply to fire damage as it was intended to. And again, this is just a snippet of everything, but there's going to be a lot more stuff. And again, like everything you know is basically going to change because of how many things are being updated in the game. So I wouldn't worry too much about any specific build. All right, so now let's get to the fun part, class updates. So I'm going to be going through all the different classes here and just showing like 1 to 2 examples of kind of the ideas of things that we're changing. Again, lots more than what you're going to see, but kind of giving you an idea of what to expect in the direction that we're going here. So first we'll start with the Barbarians. So I like Dust Devils. I've liked them for a long time, and not just things like Dust Devils, but all those types of extra affixes that spawn things. So here's an example of Wind Slasher. This is a legendary that we updated. So it's the double swing legendary that spawns Dust Devils. Before it was you would cast double swing twice and you like go in and out and in and out, and every other time you'd make a Dust Devil, right? Pretty cool. We're updating this now, so every single time that you cast double swing, it does a Dust Devil. And instead of every other time spawning 1, every other time spawns 3. So now, instead of going hit, then 1, then hit, then 1, it's 1, then 3, then 1, then 3, which means a lot more Dust Devils.
And I want to call it again, there's tempered affixes that give you chances to spawn additional Dust Devils when you spawn a Dust Devil. So.
And affixes that talk to them directly in itemization with tempering, like their size can go up, their damage can go up. Like we're actually going to make this a thing.
I know I'm talking a lot about Dust Devils. There's cool stuff for all the classes.
It's Earthquakes,
it's just that I played a lot of Dust Devil bar during one season. So
it's the example I tell our team. It's like always I say Earthquakes and Dust Devil. Like these things need to be cool, and all the ones like that though across the other classes. Anyways, that's the Bard. So there's not just this, lots of other legendaries are like this. Druid, for example, a thing that has been long complained about to me is that Lacerate isn't up to par to other things. So there on the left is what you can see exists today, where the upgrades for Lacerate are, the first one is you heal for a little bit for every hit, and then it's doubled when you crit. And then the next upgrade is that its initial strike crits and does a little bit more damage. We're just merging those together. So both of those combined is going to be your first Lacerate upgrade. And now we added a second upgrade there where every time that Lacerate crits, all of your shape-shifting skills are going to deal more damage for 10 seconds, up to 40%. So now we're adding a very strong, potent, multiplicative damage bonus buff after Lacerate. So now, Lacerate, it's going to give you invulnerability, life leech, crit, and then a potent damage buff for a while after you cast it. So then if you can get cooldown reduction on it, you can keep that buff rolling and actually have like a build going on.
Nice.
Next, the Sorceress. So here, instead of just text, I'm actually going to show you some videos. The first one is going to be showing that Frozen Orb change that we talked about here. So basically, you can see here that where the person is targeting with their cursor is where the Frozen Orb is going to explode. So now you can make it point blank, you can make it far away. It's going to be wherever you go. And for you controller players, this is going to interact just like other skills where it just goes to an enemy, and then if there's nothing nearby, it just goes a set distance before blowing up. Next, we're going to be talking about the unique. So prefacing this unique a little bit before we show the video, the basic idea is conjurations are cool and Frozen Orb is cool. And what's going to happen with this unique is Frozen Orb is going to have a chance when it explodes to spawn conjurations, and then anytime that your conjurations attack, they have a chance to throw Frozen Orbs at enemies. So now we're going to see this in action here. So it's called Fractured Winter Glass, and this video is just the person casting Frozen Orb with this unique. So at first it's like, okay, it's fine. You see a couple conjurations, right? But then as you go on, you can see that the frozen orbs are making more of them, and then the conjurations are also throwing out more frozen orbs.
This is all just from pressing one button.
This is all just from throwing out frozen orbs.
Just been right-clicking this whole time.
Yeah, so it's like when when I place a firewall, and my firewall makes a meteor, and then my meteor makes a firewall.
Yes, but conjurations.
But conjurations,
No, that's a new item.
Firewall exactly. Sounds cool
Yes.
too.
That's a new unique item.
Fair enough. Stay focused.
But yeah, so this is an example of one of the cool uniques that we're adding to the game. Next, let's move on to the Rogue. So we're also updating some class mechanics and other things. Inner Sight has kind of been eclipsed by other things in our game, right? When we first made Inner Sight, you know, it triggered off of this idea that you were going to target a single enemy, pick on that enemy, and build up this gauge, and then you have unlimited energy, and unlimited energy was supposed to be this really crazy, rare thing that was not, you know, going to happen very often. It turned out that's not really the case. Through itemization and other things, you can kind of solve resource a lot easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's fun to do that too.
Yeah, and it's fun. We want people to do that.
Yeah.
So we have to update our other systems in accordance to that, which is kind of what we're doing here. So now, you don't only have to hit the marked enemy, but you can charge up Inner Sight off of everything. So as you're blowing up waves of enemies, you still want to make sure you're hitting the one that's targeted, but now you'll get a little bit of gauge off of any enemy that you hit. And now in addition to that, the payoff is better. So not only are you going to get that unlimited energy still, but you're also going to get a 25% crit chance boost. So now you're going to be hitting harder when you are in Inner Sight mode. So now there's actually a damage component there too, in addition to the unlimited energy. Next, Necromancer. So like I said, Book of the Dead is getting upgrades. I kind of picked one slice from each part, from each minion type. So here you can see your Skeletal Reapers, the wind-up attacks now, can reduce one of your active cooldowns by a pretty chunky amount. 3 seconds is insane, but there'll be a number that'll make sense there. Maybe it is 3. Next one for the mages, you know, one of their upgrades used to be that they've made frozen enemies vulnerable, and now they just make everything vulnerable. So actually, if you want cold mages to solve vulnerable for you, you pretty much can, just with this upgrade. And last but not least, we have your Iron Golem. So Iron Golem, now that when you tell it to go somewhere and do that slam attack where it pounds the ground, it'll also pull in enemies, very similar to Corpse Tendrils. So it's not as required, you know, to put that on your bar. You have another way to kind of get that effect. Another thing I didn't put on the slide that I want to call out with Golems that'll make players happy. Golem now, while you're CC'd or at any time, when you activate it, it's going to make both your Golem and you unstoppable. Ooh. So now you have another source of unstoppable on the Necromancer for minion builds, which I think will make players really happy.
Yeah, it's like buddy cop situation.
You and your buddies going and taking people out.
That's right, I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome for a Golemancer build for sure.
Yeah. So next, like I was saying before, flat damage effects, dust devils, and earthquakes are going to be your friends now. So before, these legendaries did not scale very well. And what I mean by that is that the damage that they did was fixed. So if you got like a dust devil or earthquake or whatever, you got that legendary at like level 25, the damage that it did was just a number, and that number didn't really go up with you or scale with you in a meaningful way. Now, under the hood, all of these things are going to be scaling based off your weapon damage, which means that these things will scale with you as a player and be much more viable now. And I believe we can zoom in on this example.
Very nice.
So this one is Dancing Bolts.
I'm
actually running this legendary right now, my Lightning Storm Druid. So you can see that, you know, it's the same legendary on each side. This is me just changing out my weapon while I have this legendary equipped. This is in Season 4, so you can see it does an amount of damage on the left, you know, about 5,400 there. Now that number on the right, I didn't get a new legendary, I didn't change it, I didn't do anything except change my weapon, and that increased the damage that these Dancing Bolts are going to do. So when you get these legendaries now, they're going to scale with you and do quite a bit more damage and be punchy as you go into the late game. This is in addition to like tempering and other things, talking to these things, so you can actually itemize into making them more powerful as well.
And it's funny because there's some people I think that didn't catch, maybe they didn't catch the first part of the itemization, but they're looking at this second legendary, the new one, and they're going like, well, it's only got 3 stats or something. You should probably watch a recording of this.
Yeah, that's when it drops, not after you've done all your stuff.
Exactly. There's a lot of itemization changes to make you know, the items feel more valuable themselves in Season 4. So I recommend watching the recording just for people that may have missed the itemization or checking out our blog next week.
You can temper 2 more affixes on them. There you go.
Yeah, they got 5.
That's right.
All right, so last but not least is opening up designs. Like I talked about, one of our goals here, make things more generally useful, less restrictions. We can zoom in here. I have 2 examples. One is Azurath here on the left, a unique sword. So 2 things going on here. First, you can see before, it was that your core skills have a chance to freeze enemies and deal a bunch of damage to them. On the right, we've removed the core skill requirement, and now any of your skills can have a chance to freeze enemies. So this means you can use it on, like charge and other similar things like that, where, maybe you want to make a build around something that's not a core skill to proc this, you totally can, or it's just going to proc more often and you just play normally. Second thing you'll notice is on the left it says Barbarian only. We just removed that restriction. So now any class that can use a sword can use Azure Wrath. Again, we're just trying to look for places where there was restrictions, and when we can, we're just removing them.
Nice.
Next one is Opportunist. This one I'm really excited about on the Rogue. I think I'm going to play a Rogue this season. So on the left is the old version, where it says when you break stealth with an attack, you can drop stun grenades, right? And then those grenades deal damage and stun enemies. On the right, we've removed a lot of these restrictions and made it more useful. So now it's when you enter or break stealth, and you don't need to break stealth when you attack. So anytime that you cast stealth or go into stealth, you're going to get 2 sets of these, and it's just going to be when you go in and out, and you just get stun grenades. You also notice that this is a tuning thing, but the stun duration on stun grenades has been buffed. It's a second now. And then we also did a thing that I'm really excited about here, where every single stun grenade legendary will increase the damage of your grenade skills, and all of them are going to have this. So if you want to make a stun grenade build, if you collect, the 4 or 5 of these legendaries that kind of combo together, every one is going to incrementally increase your grenade's damage as well, to a point where they'll be doing a lot more meaningful damage in your build.
Must. Okay.
All right, last but not least, we've got hardcore updates. So for you hardcore players, Elixir of Death Evasion is being removed from the game. It's dying, and it's not coming back, just like you will in hardcore. We've also redesigned the Flame Shield enchantment. So before, it used to be a cheat death mechanic, where when you took fatal damage, it would, proc and save you. Now it's going to automatically activate when you lose a certain amount of life, and then it has an internal cooldown on that. So we've heard from the community kind of loud and clear. They really want hardcore to be hardcore, and so we're going to deliver on that. Now you actually have to be careful. The Sanctuary is a very scary place, and you won't have those fail safes to keep you alive anymore. And finally, PTR feedback. So like we mentioned before, we're going to be looking at the PTR feedback very carefully. Please let us know what you think. The class team is particularly excited about what's working for you and what's not working for you. When you're kind of tuning your feedback and typing it to us, we're really looking at things like tuning and balance. We know that things are going to be pretty wacky in this brave new world that we're going into. We're also looking for what changes really made the game more fun to you. You're going to see a lot of them, a lot more than what I presented today. We really want to know what changes we did, maybe didn't hit the mark, and why. Maybe we didn't go far enough, or this thing could have been way better with just a small tweak. And then last but not least, we want to know what would you like to see that didn't make it in, right? We're forever going to be updating this game, and we really want to know, a lot of these changes are coming from your feedback, like, flat damage scaling, Unstoppable coming on the Golem for Necromancers who've been wanting more sources of it. What other things are you seeing that, have always kind of bugged you or have always been kind of a pain point that you would like us to change? And we'll be looking for that feedback. So yeah, that's pretty much everything we got for classes. Thanks everybody again.
Yes, so
we're excited.
There is a ton of information for classes, and it's funny because everyone's treating this PTR feedback slide as if we're done.
No. There's more. There's a lot more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He hasn't even gotten started yet.
We haven't started yet.
Joe Piper, Rap God.
What more are they gonna show us, man? The end game. Did they change so many things in the end game?
He will be talking here now about end game specific items.
Sure, thanks. So a couple things I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about some new content stuff in just a minute, but there are some other things that are also changing.
No, I want to go to the I don't want to go.
You'll see on the PTR, we've made adjustments to world tiers, in that we've changed the XP modifier that you get for opting into certain world tiers. So, so the reason why we're doing this, we want to get players to endgame a little bit faster. So we've made an adjustment where World Tier 2 now goes, instead of giving you 20% bonus XP, it gives you 50% bonus XP. World Tier 3 now gives you 150% bonus XP as opposed to the 100% you got before. And then World Tier 4 gives you 250% bonus XP instead of the 200% that you got before. So again, we want to get players into the space where they're getting a chance to play with these new items. They're getting a chance to see some of the new content we're going to be talking about in just a minute, and experience more of the end game, and have a little less emphasis on the level up process being like a lot longer as it is today. So this is our stated intent. We want more players to be able to reach level 100. We want them to get more of these level 925 items. We want them to start seeing more greater affixes. We want them to engage in tempering and masterworking. And we want them to see everything else the game has to offer. We want to make sure that we're removing some of the restrictions and making that possible. And we're continuing to think about that as we move forward. This is just all of the things we're talking about today are just one more step on the journey of Diablo 4. We're going to continue, as Adam already called out, to continue to make the game better based on feedback and just continue to add more cool stuff that that we think is great for the game, and that also that we're hearing from our player base, our community, would be really, really great for the game experience. So with that quick little thing out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first major update we have planned that you'll get a chance to see on PTR.
Helltide updates. And
that is, we made a significant update to Helltide. Now, I think that everyone will remember that in Season 3, we made an adjustment to Helltide timing, where now they're basically up for 55 minutes out of every hour. There's a 5-minute gap between each Helltide experience. And we think that that's great. Players are able to get better access to Forgotten Souls and all the gameplay there. But we also, like, looking back on Season 2 and the Blood Harvest regions where the armies of Lord Zir were marching across Sanctuary, as we all recall from quarter 4 of last year, and capturing people and draining them of blood.
Max, are you here?
That was we thought that was a really fun, frenetic, like
you see there are new things in Helltide.
Just a blast, kind of kill vampires, save people.
I'm reading about Blood Knight.
Yeah,
that's what
along the way, getting good rewards.
It took my
it was a fun experience.
My mind. Blood
Maiden. In Season 3, we had a different take on that idea with the form of Arcane Tremors.
Some of the blood. What is the Blood Maiden?
A number of different small
public event boss.
And also managed to summon Heralds of Malthus in a group and go ahead and get more like tuning stones and more and governing stones and continue to just get more rewards from that experience. And again, we thought that was pretty fun, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to take some of these ideas back to Helltide, and I'll be actually, I think it might be even easier if we could just throw to Ruben potentially, who I think might actually be able to be in Helltide right now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks like that's the case. So we want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide. Hello. Yes, you're going to get destroyed. We want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide and make sure that our overworld, exciting, demonic invasion experience that players get to go through here is just more fun to engage with.
Was that just a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies at?
That was a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies up. So a bunch of things have changed. So one of the things that let me dive in. So one of the things that we did is we add this new idea of a threat system. And now you'll see the eagle-eyed among you can look to the left of the minimap. Thank you,
Max.
Can look to the left of the minimap, and you'll see a horizontal bar segmented in 3 pieces next to that kind of like half-completed pentagram there. As the players are killing demons in Helltide areas, they are slowly growing their threat over the course of the experience.
About the threat.
And as they do that, they're going to find like more ambushes. They're going to find more creatures coming.
It's going to become harder if the threat is rising.
Roll through the space, and they're gaining threat by doing anything. If they're opening tortured gifts, if they are killing regular monsters and elites, they're always earning more threat for the things that they do. The armies of hell are paying more attention. So as the player is going to go through this process, they are going to start feeling like more pressure as they go through the experience. Now, once the player has gotten towards the end of this, like they actually
have... You see the PAs? That's another
when the army is
thing
fully alerted, you'll hear a tone, which I think that I think we might actually hear soon potentially. I guess we'll have to see. But you'll hear a tone alerting you to the fact that the armies of hell are basically coming for your blood.
Right? There's a pentagram this time next to the bar.
In that case, you're going to see that there's going to be a new creature type that's going to appear, which we'll be able to get to in just a second. Some of the other big changes that are happening in Helltide alongside this, while we kind of wait for some of this stuff to happen, is we have reduced the level requirement or the world tier requirement for Helltides. You'll start to see them in lower world tiers now, so they're
you're gonna be able. You hear the sound.
So now there's going to be it's going to be almost a little more of a holdout. More invasions and ambushes are going to start to occur.
So there are elites. When the threat's going to be bigger, they're going to be harder enemies, right?
Talk about as it arrives, but you can see right now the threat is draining while this
what's the PH?
You kind of like reached that maximum threshold.
Some of the public boss.
You are
don't have a clue. And the bar is dropping now.
Yes,
gonna be empty. Let's see what's going to happen when it's
once this bar
out of the red bar.
Once again, you can start building it up by going out, doing more things inside the Helltide experience. You're going to get more opportunities for more senders and more of these ambushes again as the
ambush.
As time
you have an ambush.
Looks like we're getting towards the end of this now. Oh yeah,
should be getting this
Hellborn
here.
Yeah. So yes, and now one of the Hellborn has managed to appear. Hellborn they're very much a similar creature to some of the the Bloodseekers that we've seen in the past. These are adventurers who have fallen to the depravities of hell. They're now serving their infernal masters. They have great drops, like they'll drop like legendary equipment, and they will also drop summoning materials for Lord Zir moving forward. So there's more ways to get some of those mats as you go through the experience. And that's actually one of the other things that we did as part of our general updates, is we kind of wanted to go through and do a pass to make it easier to find more of those boss summoning materials, like from doing like different kinds of content. So while obviously you can go to Hell Tides and open Tortured Gifts to get Living Steel pretty quickly, we want to make sure that there's, like, if you find like a treasure goblin, there's a chance now that treasure goblin could drop a random boss summoning material. When you go and you open bounty caches or whisper caches at the end of a bunch of whispers runs, like in that situation, you'll also get a chance to get a random boss summoning material. And we find more opportunities through different parts of the experience in like local events. Like when you're going and just finding events and you manage to complete the mastery objective of an event now, there's a chance for you to get a boss summoning material there. Even elites have a very, very low chance to drop some of these materials. And again, all to make it just a little bit easier to kind of like gain access to these bosses as you're leveling up and playing, even if you're not saying specifically in just Nightmare Dungeons to get Distilled Fear or something else, right? So yeah, I think those are going to be some pretty fun updates for the players. That's obviously
pretty
not
exciting.
Everything.
Yeah.
So so another thing that we're doing as part of this is that we are adding a new boss.
A new boss.
Andariel.
Andariel.
So you can now fight Andariel. She is summonable by defeating the Beast in Ice and Lord Zir, and she's got the same drop table as Dory. So we want to make sure that players have a couple different ways to kind of gain access to these really, really powerful uniques that Duriel drops, but also for that shot at getting those uber uniques without always requiring players to go back to those same places. So between opening up the options of how you gain access to materials you can use to go farm uber uniques a little bit earlier, to like now saying, hey, go do Nightmare Dungeons, go do some of this overworld content and Helltide content to gain access to Beast and Ice and Lord Zir, so you can go farm Andariel there. We think that's going to be like a really, really fun change. And Andariel is a really cool fight. I think we might actually have like a quick little shot of the summoning for Andariel, as we all know her and love her. There she is. Wow. She's back. She's tough. It's gonna be.
I want to say the fight's been updated too. It's not exactly the same as what you did before.
Yeah, so. The designer's been very excited about this fight and very excited about Andariel for a while, bringing her back into the equation. So yeah, she's gonna be a lot of fun to summon.
Oh, the Poison Nova class.
Yeah. Okay, enough Andariel. Enough Andariel.
All right, yeah.
People will see that. We're on a timer, people. Okay, I got things to talk about still. Okay, but that's not even all the things that we're changing with regards to bosses. There's more stuff that we're doing as well. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about in just a minute is a new feature called the Pit. And inside the Pit, you can be able to use to summon higher level versions of all of these bosses as you go deeper into the experience. So we think this is extremely exciting. It provides another way for players to build strength, and going and fighting these bosses are going to provide much, much greater rewards. In fact, when you kill one of these new, very, very powerful, tormented versions of these bosses out there, they are going to give you one resplendent spark.
Resplendent spark, the item that we are using to craft uber uniques.
Probably. First time you kill one of them, you're going to get a resplendent spark.
Very nice.
In the future. Now, and that is not all that we're doing, obviously. I mentioned the Pit. So if we could just go ahead and...
What is the Pit, man?
I guess we can talk about it. I can speak to it, actually, yeah. So we've been getting a lot of feedback from like our experience with the Abattoir of Zir. Towards the end of season 2, we had this like really, really difficult dungeon dive against again forces of Lord Zir inside this.
We're gonna do something similar with the Abattoir of Zir.
And one note, they are not even talking about season 4 now.
No. They're not talking about season 4. They haven't said anything about season 4.
Exactly. Content type that we're calling the Artificer's Pit, and what it effectively
these are the universal changes
a way for players to go and. Once players have managed to complete a tier 45 Nightmare Dungeon, which is filled with like level 100 monsters, they're going to gain access to a quest that's going to like send them around the world looking for rune shards. And rune shards are just this new material that players will collect to open up Artificer's Rifts. And they drop from elite creatures. They drop all over the place. Like it's pretty easy to find, the materials you'll need to start this process. And when you have a number of them, you can bring them back to this obelisk in Karagar. and kind of use that to like form your first pit run effectively. And there's hundreds of levels of this, and the monsters that you will begin fighting immediately are all like right at level 100.
So pit is an end game.
What the fuck?
I have a video of it.
Yeah, let's see what we got. So
what
we
is
have,
the pit?
Ruben, like kind of near
live,
there?
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. We have the live play.
With that awesome debug text.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. With the awesome debug text. Everybody, it's PTR. Look forward. And we're talking about dev stuff right now. This is what it looks like.
What's that?
So, okay. So, we see here that Ruben's coming here. He's already done the rift before. He's going to go ahead and just open up a tier 1 Artificer's Rift. And we'll see how this goes.
It's going to be something like the Boudoir.
It's going to open up right here in Karagar. And we're going to go. There's a little bit of a stacking issue there. Yeah, we're going to have that fixed too. Okay,
Max, I'm going to cry.
Everybody. And you're going to dive into your first pit run. Now, each pit experience it's a randomized layout filled with random monsters. There's no nightmare affixes like what we have.
It's like
we have in Nightmare Dungeons. Instead, the players really like just pushing themselves up against this timer as fast as they can, trying to complete it. So as you're going through this, you'll see it's very, very similar to a lot of the things that we did in the Abattoir Zir. Now, we want to make sure that this is a quick, punchy experience as you're playing and you're killing monsters. You're not going to be getting any loot.
And as you said, this is not Season 4 things. It's the universal things.
It's just about like pushing as hard as you can. Now, a couple of the major differences.
Are they going to say anything about Season 4?
No,
I don't think so.
Relative to what we did in the Abattoir Zir, is first. In the Abattoir Zir,
we don't even have a name of Season 4 about anything, about its content, about nothing.
In the case
no,
of death.
We don't.
Here, we want to allow for a little bit more, a few more problems to occur, a few more errors, from the player as they're kind of going through. So that every time you die, what actually ends up happening is
probably
you
all
add 30
of
seconds to
those
your timer.
Gonna be added at Season 4, but we don't have the main concept of Season 4 yet.
At the end of the timer, you're not ejected from the pit. Like if you don't actually manage to keep time with the timer, you just don't get the mastery objective completion. And the mastery is tied to masterworking materials that you'll be using to go through the masterworking process for your items. In fact, the pit, as Charles referenced earlier, is the place you need to go in order to obtain the bulk majority of those masterworking materials. So while you can get to the end of the experience and you will get rewards for having defeated the boss by the end of a pit run if you don't manage to finish with the timer in mind, you won't get access to those materials. So
they're going to have special materials.
One of the things we recognize, we think is very
this is going to be the main farming road for masterworking materials.
If you're going to be able to do it in the time, right?
With content.
They kill the boss.
Okay, I can kill monsters of this level fairly easily and without much risk. How much further beyond this level can I push in order to maximize the rewards I'm getting from the runs that I'm doing, and while also maintaining cadence and like managing my risk. And that's kind of like that fun sweet spot that we think works really, really well. AOZ was meant to like tap into a little bit of this we want, but it was also AOZ was designed to be an extraordinarily challenging piece of content from the get-go. Here, the pit starts in a somewhat more reasonable place. I think we understand that tier 45 Nightmare Dungeons are not the most challenging content in the entirety of the game. It goes up much higher than that, and the pit does as well. As the pit can go like well past tier 100, so you can be fighting level 200 monsters, level 250 monsters, deeper and deeper. So
250 monsters.
Making pretty good time.
Are you crazy?
I think we saw earlier that Ruben actually like jumped into a portal to move to a different area.
Yep. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you can't finish an entire pit run inside like that first area. You kind of are expected to like move on.
I'm gonna be able to kill 250 level masterman.
Either of these areas,
crazy.
There's a good amount of creatures in both spaces. You kind of like make up the time that you need. He's making pretty good time here though. Okay.
So the idea is to try and find that level in the pit where you can go pretty efficiently,
here's the boss.
Where you're pushing hard so you can get better rewards.
Right. Okay. So Ruben did a great job, Ruben. So you managed to do it. Okay. Let's not get too excited. All right. Now you can go into the boss in just a moment. Now the second thing that's different about the pit that we you just start to see it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's different from what we've done in AOZ in the past. Is that occasionally during a pit run, you're going to be confronted by another major boss or villain that you've seen. Like you'll see their echo occasionally appear just for a moment to perform a big attack, big sweeping attack, or that you're going to have to like avoid or deal with while you're dealing with the boss you're already fighting. And this is happening throughout the duration of the pit as well. And as you go deeper, you'll see this occasionally a little more frequently at the same time. So these are just another complication, like another thing that you're gonna have to be thinking about while you're playing and trying to like remember the sorts of patterns. Eventually you'll see a couple of these appearing as well. You know, so like you'll be dealing with that like that kind of pattern following as you play deeper and deeper into the pit.
Yeah,
I'll
so,
say
so it's kind of like Elias, for instance, like a shade of Elias can
yeah,
appear
so you can come and do an attack,
just do an attack in the middle
A
of your
shade of Lilith can appear as well.
A shade of Lilith can also appear, which is pretty cool.
These are definitely tough, tough things as you go deeper and deeper, and eventually you might see a couple of them as well in combination. So okay, so here Ruben killed the boss, got a number of different drops. There's a bug in this version that we're looking at right now where the items they're dropping are not actually ancestral, but that's not the case when players will be playing on the PTR. You all see ancestral items as the rewards for killing the boss here at the end. And then after that, when you open the chest, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of obdusite that popped out of it, which is a masterworking material. You know, I think he got 5. You know,
what is that, man? This is so new.
So as you go deeper in the pit, there's basically 3 tiers of masterworking materials.
Yes, we're gonna use them for masterwork.
There's the
we will have to go and farm those areas.
So these are available as you go deeper and deeper.
And the deeper that I'm gonna go,
I think
the best reward we're gonna have the best material, right? The more materials.
As you go from like 21 to 40.
It's like playing a different game, man.
There is even a legendary crafting material.
You start seeing more and more neath iron.
Wow.
And these things can also be like condensed down to lower level materials if you need them for resetting a masterwork.
It's like playing a new game, man. They have changed the game.
So you don't have to go back to the low level.
No,
you can stay at the high.
You can stay at a high level.
Yeah.
But to be clear, if you want to get to that rank 12 masterworking, really the best possible items, you do need to be pushing deeper levels of the pit. You can't just continually farm level 1. You want to push to that efficiency bet that you said. Push yourself to your limit to get the most materials per hour, and just really fight that hard content to get the best items.
That's correct. So yeah, if you want to go through that process and like really get those the best items available for your build, you're going to want to go through the masterworking process, maybe even probably more than once, almost certainly more than once, right? To get the absolute very, very best items. You know, so we think the pit's gonna be, it's a really fun experience. It is, it's very extendable, so it goes pretty deep for players. And again, as you're going, you're getting these Stygian stones as you play. You know, like as you get deeper into the
experience. They didn't show us the other thing in Helltest. There was another Helltest thing that probably is gonna be the boss, right? There's a new boss in Helltest.
So like a level 200
is the Bone Maiden
version of Barshan.
They didn't show us. They didn't show
all of these bosses have a higher chance to drop uber unique item as well. So now there's even more reason to want to go get some of
these stones are used to summon level 200 versions.
They have better drops. They
which boss, ladder boss? What the fuck are we talking about? What that?
So there's these are gonna be huge challenges for.
What is that, man? What is the boss, ladder boss?
Again, just in season 4. You know, so that's like the current look of some of the things we're working on right now.
I have a headache.
We're currently very excited about.
Yeah, many stuff.
On the content side. Right?
Yeah, we're an hour and a half in of all the content that we just walked through with season 4. And as Adam had mentioned earlier, we haven't even gone through all the class updates. You guys will actually see that. There's a lot more. You guys will actually see that next week. Normally, we do have a blog and patch notes kind of available like a day or two after a Campfire chat. I am asking the community if it's okay if we give it to you guys next week, because the only reason why is that they're huge and we actually need to make sure that we get all the information in there. You guys will have it well before the PTR actually starts, and we will actually have a blog kind of going through all the details of this actual Campfire chat, as well as the giant list of patch notes for the PTR, which again will begin on April 2nd, run for a week. On PC Battle.net, and we'll have instructions of how to actually get into the PTR, download the client, and everything from that end as well. So I know we always end our Campfire chats with a Q&A session. So we do want to make sure that we do a Q&A session right now. So if you guys have questions, please use Twitch chat.
I can't imagine there's any questions.
So we covered everything, right?
I thought it was a perfect explanation.
We did ask earlier this week on the forums if if anyone had any specific questions, and so we can actually tee up a question while people are populating questions in chat. So we'll start off with one that we have here from the forums. This is from Iggy. What will happen to current items after this rework? Because obviously we're now changing a lot of things from our past items going into season 4.
Yeah, so all of the items that you currently have on your characters or on the Eternal Realm will be flagged as what are called legacy items. And this means that they are not able to interact with the new systems of tempering or masterworking. They'll continue to function as they are, so that they're not going to break, they're not going to be re-rolled or changed in any way. They're just kind of say, hey, this was an item that in the old system, but if you want to engage with the new systems and find those greater affixes and temper all the cool new affixes onto it and do masterworking, of course, you're going to need to go out and find new items.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a question from Toast and Pen, Eternal Realm, what's new? Everything we just talked about. Everything we just talked about, Toast and Pen, is going to be available in the Eternal Realm. So, and this will start with Season 4. So if you are a person that just only plays on Eternal Realm and you have a character already there, of course, you can just immediately start engaging in everything that we just kind of talked about right here. J Corsair 19, does the masterworking just increase the total range of the roll, or does it get you closer to a max roll?
So it increases the current value. So if you already had a max roll, it keeps on increasing. So as an example, you had an affix that could have rolled between 50 and 100, and you had a value of 90. Every time you increase it, it's going to increase that 90 by, or let's say you had it at 100, just to make the math easier, because quick math. If it was already at 100, the first masterworking upgrade will take it to 105. Even though the base roll range was just up to 100, you can continue progressing past that. If you had it, down at 50, it would go from 50 up to 55, and so on.
Arrow 1357 just asked, what about season? Is there season stuff as well? We actually aren't talking yet about the season items. So yes, this is all part of the season and part of the Eternal Realm. But we do have, there are some things that we haven't talked about regarding Season 4 that we will be talking about here in the future.
The bulk effort for the team has really been spent on trying to ensure that this update is really meaty and all-inclusive. Like when I've talked before about, the Season 2 updates where we talk about vulnerability damage and the many changes we had to make to get that into a better spot for the players overall. You can see the amount of things that we did are kind of all connected in a lot of ways. And it's important they kind of come out together. It's difficult to do one thing in isolation. So a lot of teams worked together to kind of bring this update and get over the finish line. So yeah, it's a huge lift. But there's more things to talk about later on, for the season.
Dorag the Warrior says, can multiple affixes increase per masterwork or only one affix per masterwork?
Right, so when you're masterworking, most of the ranks will increase all of the affixes on the gear by a small amount. But when you hit those thresholds, the rank 4, rank 8, and rank 12, a single random affix will get a much larger boost. Yeah. And so because that happens 3 times on your journey from rank 1 to 12, in theory, all 3 of those could land on the same affix if you get lucky, and then that one affix just goes through the roof. Or it could be spread out to 3 different affixes, for instance. That's just the nature of masterworking. You're going to get a different result every time you go through that process.
So I've seen a lot of people actually mention this in chat, and Riker also just mentioned this in chat. Sure. And they're asking, is it just me, or was the camera more zoomed out in the dev build? Actually...
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Actually...
wow. Okay. Go ahead.
In Season 4, the camera will be more zoomed out. And there will be an option. You can have what we had before, or you can zoom it out a little. So, yes.
Yeah, there's a gameplay setting. It starts at the current default.
Correct.
Which is what we have in Diablo 4 today. But we've been hearing the feedback. We did make a move. Joe Shelley helped a lot with this, actually. Everybody helped a lot with this. We did make a move to pull the camera out a little bit further. That's part of a near-far sort of situation. So it's going to be available for you to see in the PTR.
Good eye.
Good eye.
Huge update, yes, of course.
Yeah, we forgot to say, that's another really good one to talk about.
No, gonna have the chance to change the zoom of the camera.
There are a lot of questions about loadouts. Did you guys want to provide any context on that?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. We're very, very excited about bringing in an armory-like feature to Diablo 4. We've been hearing the feedback since the Gauntlet went up, which we're very excited about, and we see that there's an opportunity here. We don't have anything to announce today, but it is a thing the team has talked about. The UI team is very excited about. It's a thing we definitely want to move on at some point, but nothing to announce.
Yep. I lost my track here. Do you have any intention of reviewing? I'm sorry, this is from Vix311 or 3II. Do you have any intention of reviewing class optimization. Examples like give more customization points or put Paragon after a higher level than 50.
So there's a number of things that we're talking about for the future, things we can't talk about today. But you can imagine that like we're going to be having an expansion soon. We probably want to talk about some of that stuff then. There's things for us to be considering.
We're gonna have an expansion soon.
A lot of people mentioning a loot filter, which I know, like we had mentioned as well, that we wanted to get through the itemization stuff. So
sure, I can talk a little bit about that. I think a lot of the desire for a loot filter in the current version of Diablo IV stems from the problems that we initially mentioned. We really do just flood you with items, and it's like sifting sand, right? You need to look through all these items. And the one response is, hey, a loot filter could automate all this. We think in this new itemization world where we are simplifying it in a lot of the ways that we already discussed, reduced number of affixes, simpler affixes, the item power once you get to the late game always dropping at the max, will help to alleviate a lot of those concerns, and it will make parsing through the items a lot easier in this new system.
Lady Ava 2016 mentioned, or actually brings up something that I think we should talk about, which is, would it be possible to toss a different icon on the map when specific like greater affixes and things like that drop? Are there any plans for that in regards to changing some of that around?
We really want to get feedback from players as you go through the PTR experience. Even the thing that we
to be able to change the color of the drop in case if there is a unique or something, so you will know.
Before it actually is released as part of the 1.4 release moment. So like that's going to get a little bit better. But like I think that it would be good to get feedback to see how these things feel. And it's something we'll continue to think about, because we do want those moments to be exciting when they actually occur. Yeah.
Brian C22, you say higher the rifts, the better the items. Are we talking about the equivalent to primals?
So
and if people don't know, primals being a D3 specific item that was super powerful.
So as you go, we're not changing the rate at which like greater affixes, for example, could appear on like iPower 925 items, and we're not raising the iPower ceiling of items beyond 925 as you're going deeper in the pit. Instead, it's more about like as you go deeper in the pit, you're going to get more legendary drops. So this is going to give you more options, more chances of getting things that have like better, greater affix potential. So that's really more the way that we're handling that. And then, of course, the masterworking materials that you're using to juice up all of your items.
Drummer Boy had asked specifically, can you do groups with in the pit?
Yes. You can party in the pit, yes.
Yes, okay. And then, let me see. Will we be seeing any like clan updates, social updates? This is another big question that a lot of people are asking about from within chat. Are there any plans on that or any progress regarding that?
So we have been talking a lot internally on the team about social updates and things we want to talk about soon. But we definitely hear the desire from the players that they're looking for more ways to like kind of get into groups and to form parts of people online, as opposed to just like talking in local chat or trade chat or trying to like reach out that way, or just going to Discord or just going to external sources. So we do have thoughts on things we want to do to kind of help that process along, but nothing to announce for season 4 at this time. Yeah.
I know there's also there's some comments about like the store, the shop, and things like that with related to items. There's actually, I know last time we had a Campfire chat, I had mentioned like, hey, our team that focuses on like the product team has been taking in a lot of feedback. There's actually going to be some changes here coming really soon that will be offering up new opportunities for people to use some of the platinum that they may have obtained in the battle pass for some really cool looking sets and stuff or cosmetics for their character. And we're also, I believe, taking and retroactively changing that portal pack. Yeah. And I think it was actually locked per class.
They haven't discussed anything about season 4.
One of the colors. That is changing here in the future.
We're going to have another Campfire, probably.
There's no discrimination
after the PTR, probably.
Colors, so
before the PTR, I don't know.
You'll be able to choose exactly what you want. And I will say there's going to be some more significant changes I know coming with the store that team has been taking in a lot of feedback. So players will be able to see more related to that here soon. Let me see if I can get any more questions. Castordiff says, any PvP news, balance, new rewards?
Nothing to announce on PvP right now. The focus of this update has been predominantly on the core underpinnings of our SARPG experience, trying to make sure that Feels like there's a really exciting gear chase for players to pursue once they get to a certain level of power. That we have done a lot, like what Charles talked about, like condensing down a lot of our affixes to make items just feel more engaging in general. Going through all of our various classes, trying to open up a lot of new build opportunities. So it's kind of like what we're really trying to do here is respond to a lot of the really, really big major feedback we've been hearing, honestly, since launch, and try to like get a good, big, sizable update for players to go and engage with there. But we didn't spend time in features like PvP, you know, and because that would have distracted us from what we're really trying to focus on at the time instead.
These things are going to fundamentally change everything, though, like
That's
PvP
true.
as well.
It
Like how
down.
you make a character, the builds you make, how you do everything fundamentally is going to change from this.
That's right.
So this was the big thing we're trying to nail, and all of our eyes were focused on that.
That's right.
Dristren asks, I know Uber uniques cannot be tempered, but can they roll greater affixes and can they be mastercrafted?
Yes. On both accounts.
Uniques can be
roll greater
mastercrafted.
affixes, just the same as Ancestral Legendaries. It doesn't need to be Ancestral, so it's World Tier 4, same as before. Same concept with Uber uniques. And even through the Respondent Spark, the crafting system, there is a small chance that when you craft it, it comes with an Uber unique
with greater
unique comes with a greater affix, even when you craft it, just as if it would drop.
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to do one last question. This is from GGI 101. Will the aspect changes also apply to alternate characters? Do I need to level up my aspects on alternate characters, for example?
Aspects are partition bound. So what I mean by that is if you're playing a seasonal character and you want to play an alt on the seasonal realm, like that alt will
and you
benefit
unlock your
unlocks
aspects
you've got
about
within your power.
every character.
There is a separate hardcore and not hardcore characters
That's correct.
as
Yes,
well.
that's correct.
Hardcore characters are kind of their own thing, even on the seasonal realm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So a lot of info delivered in this this Campfire chat.
Yeah.
Probably the most info we've ever delivered in any Campfire chat or even developer update live stream. But it's important stuff because obviously with Season 4, we have a PTR coming up. For those that may have missed it, it will be on April 2nd through April 9th. And it'll be on PC Battle.net only. So players who want to help test things out, provide feedback, please do so. We'll be checking all our, our social channels, Reddit, the forums. The forums will actually have a new separate PTR forum available there. This also does mean Season 3 is going to be extended because we want to make sure we grab all the feedback from this PTR and all the feedback from the community, and we have enough time to actually implement that for Season 4. So Season 3 is going to be extended to May 14th. Season 4, of course, will start
Blizzard
on May 14th as well.
Birthday gift to me
and we'll be
because
coming out with more information on what Season 4 is specifically. And all the details that we actually talked about here today will be in a very extensive blog along with all the patch notes of all the small things like the class
notes
changes
are gonna be
that Adam actually
in a
wasn't
book
able to get through. Small changes, small. Will be in those patch notes as well. And we still actually do have another update that will be coming out next week for Diablo 4. And this one has actually been long awaited because this one does include some big quality features on the graphics side for D4. And we will have a blog that will be talking about it. As you guys know, ray tracing is coming to D4, and that'll be hitting next week on March 26th. So people will be able to maybe, if you've got a rig for it, you can totally turn up all your graphical settings, get ray tracing with D4. And we'll also be talking about how console players will also be able to take advantage of it in our blog next week. So lots of stuff coming down and lots to talk about. Again, next week we'll have all the information on blog and patch notes. But thanks again. Yeah. Everyone. Thanks again, Joe Shelley, who's also still in the room over here.
Nice.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, huge shout out to the community. Thank you guys again for all the wonderful feedback that you guys have been providing. And we're really excited for you guys to jump into PTR, jump into all the Season 4 itemization, class changes, and of course our new endgame changes as well. So we will catch you soon. And yeah, next week we'll see you with the blog and the patch notes. Thanks, guys.
Thanks everybody.
Nice. 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 So, a lot of changes. A lot of stuff. New crafting system, a lot of stuff. We're gonna write an article in their articles, probably not an article, articles about all these things. And we're gonna have the patch notes as well, which is gonna be probably like a Bible, right? Like a tome. Nice. Max, do you want to say something? I'm gonna make a video talking about this, what we heard in this campfire, and I'm gonna upload it in our second RPG channel, and we're gonna write an article. We're gonna write some articles, several articles probably on our website, in which we're gonna talk about all this stuff. Max, do you want to add something?
A lot of changes.
Are you satisfied from the outcome of what they said?
We have to digest all this information as a start. The most crucial is that we have a crafting system at last. All aspects are moving to Codex of Power.
And we don't have just a crafting system. We have two new crafting systems. Two actually.
We have a complete crafting system divided by 3 or 4 sub-crafting mechanics.
And we're still gonna keep the enchantments in the enchantment through Oculus if we still want to do that.
The positive thing is that these new crafting systems are connected to the end game content that is going to be added. For example, in order to complete your master working in an item, you have to run pits, and pits are not easy, I guess, as we saw.
Yep, exactly.
A lot of changes we have to digest, to process all this information, to put it together, to read the patch notes when they come, have a clear view of everything that is going to come. And I will repeat this again, we haven't even talked about the Season 4 as Season 4.
No, because we have no clue about what Season 4 is going to be like, right?
Yes. So my reactions are positive, more than positive. And I'm expecting to see what is going to happen. And you know what? I'm pleased. I'm a Diablo fan, okay? I told them many times that I like many RPGs. Last Epoch, Path of Exile. Diablo is my home. Okay.
Yeah.
Diablo will always be my home on gaming. I'm also excited about Path of Exile.
Yeah, we're gonna see the Path of Exile tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna stream 10 o'clock our time zone, Greek time zone, because they have a Path of Exile event. They're gonna talk about the new league that is coming, Necropolis, and they're gonna reveal a lot of stuff for the in-game of Path of Exile 2. Gameplay things, what it's gonna be, and they said that it's gonna be. They have a lot of things to announce. So tomorrow we're gonna stream 10 o'clock, and we're gonna cover and we're gonna watch together the new leak that's coming, Necropolis, and things that they're gonna reveal to us about Path of Exile 2. So if everyone wants to come and watch, we're gonna be here. So Max, sorry for this. I just wanted to say that.
No, just we have to validate that it's 10 o'clock. I think 99% that it's 10 o'clock our time, local time, Greek time.
Yeah, it's our time zone.
Yes. So we are pleased as gamers in general. We have changes in Diablo 4 coming. We have Path of Exile, New League. We have Path of Exile 2. We have Last Epoch. We have choices.
By the way, there is a new update that was released in Last Epoch. Now we are 1.0.4. By the way, right? I haven't had the time to check it out, but yes. Hello, Baghdadis. Hello. How are you?
I'm not gonna be heretic or mean to say that we will have a 1.0.4.1 to correct the previous.
Probably, but we are waiting for to release a Pinnacle update in Last Epoch as well, right? With the bosses.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff tomorrow. We're gonna stream 10 o'clock. We're gonna cover the event that they're gonna do in Path of Exile, the GGG, and we're gonna see what Necropolis is gonna be like, the new league, and what Path of Exile 2. They have a lot of things to announce about Path of Exile 2, because Path of Exile 2 probably is gonna release. They're gonna have a closed beta available for Path of Exile 2 as well. For all of the people that are gonna be. They're gonna have access to it, right? We are interesting for Path of Exile 2 as well. So, Max, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you everyone.
Hyota, thank you very much for the YouTube RPG. Thank you very much. I'm gonna upload a video tomorrow probably, talking about those what the basic things that we heard in this campfire. In general, I'm very pleased because most of the things that we talked about, they are delivering it. They are delivering the trading. We're gonna be able to trade things. Finally, legendary. We're gonna be able to craft things. Actually, craft. There's a new crafting system that you're gonna be actually to craft, and we're gonna have the occultist. We're gonna have the not unique. How do you call it? Tempering. And for better version, for more end game crafting system, we're gonna have the masterwork. And a lot of new materials to craft that we're gonna must farm, pits and other stuff. Then changing Helltide. There's also a big boss in Helltide that they didn't show to us. There's a new boss, Andariel, right? A
new upper unique.
A new upper unique. There are new uniques. There are new things, new affixes. There are a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. So, thank you very much. See you tomorrow, 10 o'clock, with Path of Exile, Necropolis, the new league that's coming in some days, and Path of Exile 2. Bye-bye. Thank you all for being here. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.